Hello friends, this is your friend back with new fanfic. What if Kushina survived and trained Naruto in secret while the Leaf Village lied to him for years? If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Chapter 1. Kushina woke up in a hospital bed. She remembered Minato finishing the sealing jutsu and the Kyuubi was sucked into her son. She remembered being wounded as the Kyuubi screamed at being incarcerated yet again. She had thought it had been fatal. Minato said that it looked fatal. So why was she still alive? A nurse must have seen her eyes opened because she heard them talking about Sandaime. Sarutobi-sama would probably arrive soon with many questions that they hadn't had the time to properly answer the night of the attack. The night of Naruto's birth. Kushina was weak, but she was alive. And she wanted nothing more than to hold him in her arms. To protect him. She knew all about what it was like to be a young Jinchuriki. She knew what it was like to grow up alone. Nurse, Kushina rasped. Her throat and chest hurt badly. She didn't even bother trying to form chakra. She simply searched for a call button. She was still exhausted. Her heritage gave her incredible longevity and health, but she had been injured badly. It would take some time to completely heal. As much as she wanted to storm off and find her son, she would have to rely on others. The nurse came in and looked at Kushina. "You are an amazing woman, Uzumaki-san," the nurse said. "Nobody expected you to wake. When Sandaime-sama brought you in, you had internal injuries and suffered from severe chakra exhaustion." "Where is my son?" Kushina asked, grabbing the nurse's arm. "Where is Sarutobi-sama? Please. You must calm down, Uzumaki-san. Your injuries are severe." Kushina's temper flared. She knew that she should rest. Objectively, she knew that it was a bad idea. But she hadn't seen her son. Her husband had used a forbidden sealing jutsu that dragged him to hell to save them, and she thought that she had died. She knew better, but her temper got the better of her. "No. Bring me my son," she screamed, forming chakra and channeling it into her body. "Now." The nurse screamed in pain and Kushina realized that she was squeezing the poor woman's arm with a combination of a mother's protective instincts and the enhanced strength of ninja techniques. Kushina let go of the nurse. "I'm sorry. Please. Just bring me my son," Kushina pleaded. "Thank the gods," came a familiar voice. Jiraiya-sensei crouched in the window. "I know that I am the boy's godfather, but I would have been terrible at it. Sarutobi-sensei would have had to do most of the work. I know nothing of babies." Jiraiya had his head hung in shame. He wouldn't meet Kushina's eyes. "Where is he, Jiraiya-sensei? Do you know?" Kushina pleaded. "Sarutobi-sensei is protecting him." Jiraiya stopped. Jiraiya turned away. He couldn't even look in her general direction. His favorite students had grown up, gotten married, and had a child. To top it off, they had asked him to be the boy's godfather. He knew his own faults. He knew that he couldn't be around the boy until he was older. He just couldn't. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." His voice was barely a whisper. Kushina was barely paying attention. Her body was screaming in pain from her exertion with the nurse. Jiraiya was sorry. Why wouldn't he be sorry for her? Her husband, his favorite student, had died protecting the village. It hit her then. Minato was dead. Not only dead, but dragged off by the Shinigami. She wept openly. Her son was alive. Her husband was dead. She was still excited about her son, but it was bittersweet without Minato. They were shinobi. They knew the risks. But she had always dealt with it in the long term by denying the possibility of their deaths. The nurse led Sarutobi-sama into the room. Jiraiya still wouldn't look at Kushina, but he didn't leave either. Kushina was flooded with joy at the tiny baby Sarutobi brought her. She cried harder, bringing Naruto into her uncharacteristically gentle embrace. He had blonde hair, just like Minato. 6 months later, the apartment of Kushina Uzumaki. "Jiraiya-sensei, it doesn't matter. I'm not dead," Kushina said. "It matters. I heard that you two might be dead and my first thought was, I hope Sarutobi-sensei doesn't know I'm his godfather, because I didn't want a baby around. You and Minato honored me and I nearly blew it off because I don't like babies," Jiraiya said fiercely. He had vowed that he would be the very best godfather possible. Kushina paused, looking at the Sannin intent on murdering the man. He hadn't left her alone since the hospital. Naruto was finally asleep and the dolt was nearly screaming at her. He really did know nothing about babies. For being such a renowned pervert, the Sannin was amazingly uninformed about the aftermath. Shish, Kushina shushed. Naruto is finally asleep. She had a hard look in her eyes. She had recovered quickly from her injuries. A testament to her Uzumaki health. She knew that Jiraiya was racked with guilt. At first, she had been infuriated with the Sannin, but after several months she was mostly just tired. Jiraiya-sensei, you aren't helping. I'm exhausted. Naruto is definitely an Uzumaki. He has endless stamina and I don't have the energy to be mad at you anymore. We are safe within the village. Just go somewhere. Write your books. If you wake Naruto again, by all that is righteous and holy in this world I swear I will poison you and then beat you to death. I mean it. Come back often, but leave. Tsunade has been gone since the end of the war. You are fantastic with Genin, but Naruto is only a baby. But, I'm letting you off the hook, Jiraiya-sensei, Kushina said honestly. It wasn't the old leche's fault, really. It was like the scorpion and the frog. Just make sure that you come back around, she added. Jiraiya hung his head. They had had this conversation many times before, but he could tell that the red-hot habanero was no longer angry with him. He would have deserved it if she had held a grudge forever. He knew that. After the first time Kushina had forgiven him, he'd made the vow. He intended to keep it, but he couldn't fight her anymore. She was right. He hated that she was right, but he admitted it. You're right. I'm not helping. I will not fail again. I will return. Kushina sighed. I almost wish you'd just go peep at the hot springs so I could have some peace, Kushina muttered. She was too tired to be offended by the old lech. She fell asleep where she sat on the couch, leaving Jiraiya to wonder if she'd meant it. Jiraiya made sure to secure the apartment before he left. Playground in the Leaf Village, Naruto, age 4. Hi. My name's Naruto Uzumaki. The boisterous blonde boy shouted at the other children in the sandbox. Kushina was sitting on a bench watching her son. His spiky blonde hair reminded her so much of Minato. It had been 4 years and she still missed him, but his absence hurt a little less. Sandaime had been very generous with their stipend and she hadn't been on a mission since before she was pregnant. She still trained, but she hadn't been in the field in years. Every time she got restless, she would look at Naruto and the restlessness melted. She knew that he needed her. The other villagers always whispered and avoided him. It was supposed to be an S-ranked secret, but somehow it had leaked to the general populace that Naruto was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. She understood their hatred. It was callous and uninformed, but she understood. At first, she had challenged the villagers who stared and whispered. But it didn't really help any. Naruto would just have to grow up and prove to them that he wasn't the Kyuubi. Her ninja friends, on the other hand, were much easier to persuade. She explained to them that Naruto was just a boy, that being the Jinchuriki didn't mean that he was the Kyuubi. She found out who her true friends were, not that she was surprised at who remained. Makoto Uchiha was one of them, although her husband wasn't. Shikaku Nara had said, troublesome, in an understanding tone. She was never close friends with the Hyuga, but the Hyuga were more outraged that she refused to remarry and raised Naruto alone than whether Naruto was Kyuubi. Of course, Minato's sole surviving student, Kapi, Kakashi Hatake, didn't care. Kushina asked him to visit, but she found him more often at the memorial stone for the Third Great Ninja War. She shook herself from her reverie to see that Itachi and Sasuke were playing with Naruto. Sasuke and Naruto were both trying to catch Itachi. They were having so much fun that she barely noticed the Anbu in the tree at the park. She saw Makoto watching the children play with Itachi. Itachi was already a chunin and Makoto had bragged that he was applying to Anbu. Kushina body flickered to a branch next to the Anbu. Are you here for me or Naruto? She asked. The Anbu just shook his head. Kushina body flickered back to her position on the bench and continued watching Naruto play. Chapter 2. Naruto was the center of attention, right where he always loved to be. His mother was throwing him a birthday party and all of his friends were invited. He was always trying to make more friends, but the adults in the villages seemed to do something to make sure that other kids stayed away. Very few parents would let their kids get close to Naruto for long. The only kids his own age in attendance were Sasuke Uchiha and Shikamaru Nara. Sasuke was fun to play with, but he was always going on about what an awesome ninja he would be when he grew up. He always talked about how he would be just like his older brother, Itachi. It took Itachi only a year to graduate the academy and he already joined Anbu. Shikamaru was quiet, but he liked to play. He was always trying to teach Naruto to play shogi or go, but Naruto liked running around more than board games. Still, it was nice to play inside when it rained. Shikamaru was also friends with Choji Akamichi, but Choji's parents weren't as understanding about the Kyuubi incident as Shikamaru's parents. Choji liked Naruto and didn't understand why he couldn't go to the party as well, since Kushina was reputed to cook enough food for even an Akamichi. It took some doing, but Kushina managed to get Jiraiya-sensei and Kakashi-chan to show up as well. Naruto liked Jiraiya. Whenever Jiraiya was in town, he brought Naruto presents and would spend time helping with pranking the villagers. Jiraiya was especially fond of pranks at the hot springs. Naruto loved to play pranks on the villagers. The villagers generally ignored him, but would sometimes get angry and curse him. Naruto hated being ignored more than being cursed. It made him feel so alone. But the villagers paid attention when Naruto pranked them. Anytime Kakashi caught him, Kakashi would lecture him about taking things more seriously, but Kakashi was always reading something that Naruto wasn't old enough to read. Kakashi wasn't nearly as fun as Jiraiya-sensei. And Kakashi tried to stop his pranks rather than help. But Kakashi taught Naruto taijutsu. Naruto wasn't terribly skilled, but he still loved to practice. Kushina made plenty of food. She ate a lot and Naruto ate a lot, so keeping the kitchen well stocked was a requirement. She had a homemade grill and cooked barbecue. There were plenty of chips, drinks, and cakes too. Everyone was having a good time. The kids played while the adults drank adult beverages and chit-chatted about current events. Naruto noticed some of those weird ninja with funny animal masks on the rooftop across from the apartment. And then someone new knocked on the door. Naruto didn't really know anyone else, so he was surprised that someone else would come to his party. "Mom, did you invite anyone else?" he asked. "I did invite someone else, but I really didn't think that he'd show. He's a busy man, after all," Kushina replied from the grill. She left Jiraiya at the grill and went to open the door. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, bowed and entered. Everyone had some variation of Hokage-sama, or Sarutobi-sensei, in shock as the Sandaime entered. "Hey old man, I've never met you before. Who are you?" Naruto asked innocently. Everyone in the room was stunned into silence at Naruto's bluntness, but the Hokage only chuckled. "Ho ho, we've met before Naruto. I must be keeping myself even busier than I thought if you don't even remember me." "I'm Hiruzen Sarutobi," the old man said. "And you should be able to guess my title from my robes and hat." Naruto frowned. The old man was wearing Hokage robes. Well, the old man seemed nice enough, so he didn't see what the big deal was. Naruto didn't get why everyone was so reverent. "Nice of you show, old man," Kushina chided. "You must have misplaced the last 2 birthday invitations I sent. If mom talks to him that way, then I'll talk to him that way," Naruto decided. He went back to playing with his friends, who were both mortified at how he spoke to the most revered ninja in the village. Shikamaru didn't even utter his trademark, "How troublesome." Naruto made a mental note. Knowing what shocked people was always good fodder for pranks. Kushina, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi gathered around the makeshift grill. Sarutobi said, "Well, it looks like he's healthy." "Yes," Kushina replied. "He's grown strong. I've been keeping track and he has even more stamina than a normal Uzumaki. Kakashi says that his chakra network is nearly as developed as a low-level Chunin. I really wish that the Hyuga weren't so uptight because I would like to get someone with a Byakugan to look at him. But as far as we can tell, everything is just fine." Good, Sarutobi muttered. "So he'll be ready to go to the academy this year?" he asked clearly. "The war is over, Hokage-sama. I was hoping to let him be a child for a while," Kushina replied. "Sasuke and Shikamaru are both entering the academy this year and Naruto should probably stay with his friends," Sarutobi said. "I suppose if he's to be a ninja anyway, he might as well stay with his friends," Kushina relented. "Sarutobi-sensei, I would like to remain in the village for a few months when Naruto enters the academy," Jiraiya finally spoke. Sarutobi and Kushina were both shocked. Jiraiya was a famous, or infamous, writer and a tremendous asset to have abroad collecting intelligence. Sarutobi said, if you insist, I can't really stop you, but some of your fans, he eyed Kakashi, might object to a long hiatus between installments. Jiraiya nodded. They'll live. Some things are more important than Make-Out Tactics, Volume 4, he added with a smirk. Kakashi had been quietly paying attention. He was devastated to hear that his favorite series would be on hold. He had to do something, so he approached the three older nin to speak. Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama, Kushina-sama, if Naruto needs a tutor, I would be happy to assist. Jiraiya saw through Kakashi immediately. The part you've left out is, if it will help Jiraiya-sama get back to writing, Kakashi-san. Kakashi knew that was absolutely the case, but he shrugged. Well, Naruto's first day at the Ninja Academy. There were many other children at the academy that Naruto had seen around town. Many only had one parent. Some had only a father, while others had only a mother. Naruto had never questioned it since it was so common. He quickly found his friends and tried to be as friendly as he could to the other children. He was hoping that the academy wouldn't be like the playground and that he would have more friends. He loved Shikamaru and Sasuke like brothers, but Naruto wanted to be friends with everyone. That first day, there were several tests to determine everyone's physical capabilities. But that was only a small part of the day, according to the instructors. There were also textbooks. Reading, writing, math, history, and science were part of the curriculum too. The instructors for the class were Iruka-sensei and Mizuki-sensei. They both seemed harsh to Naruto, but he was accustomed to new people acting weird around him. They seemed decent, but Naruto devised several pranks that he could play on them both. Just in case they were like some of the villagers. The physical stuff was Naruto's favorite. He liked being active. Running over obstacles and sparring were the things that he loved the most, even though he wasn't top of the class. Sasuke was the best at sparring and running obstacles. He said that it was because of the genius of the Uchiha, but Naruto was a close second in those two things. With the textbook stuff though, he was dead last. By the end of the first day, Naruto had discovered that Sasuke was considered a genius by the rest of the class because his family had a long tradition of being awesome ninjas. Itachi was already in Anbu, which was a huge deal in general, but especially because he was so young. The other kids mostly ignored Naruto, but Sasuke and Shikamaru would talk to him, which led to Choji joining. Choji and Shikamaru both ended up talking to Naruto at lunch, while Sasuke ate quietly beside them all. I'm the #1 prankster in the village. Naruto exclaimed proudly. Nobody can pull pranks like I can. Oh yeah, Choji replied. Prove it. Pull a prank now. How troublesome, Shikamaru muttered, knowing that Naruto couldn't back down from a challenge, even if he lost. Naruto inhaled the rest of his lunch because he was always hungry and started sneaking around. The easiest targets for a prank were a group of girls. They seemed to be ignoring the world and whispering about Sasuke. Naruto noticed a stray cat skulking in the bushes and immediately got an idea. He grabbed the cat and petted it, quickly calming the feral beast. The girls didn't suspect a thing while Naruto held the cat. He tied an orange dye bomb to the cat's collar and brought it over to the group of Sasuke-crazed girls. Excuse me, does anyone know whose cat this is? He asked politely, holding the cat out into the crowd. Naruto, right? Asked one of them. Yep, that's me, he replied, smiling. Why would we know about some stray cat? She asked acerbically. That's what I thought, Naruto said as he triggered the dye bomb. A cloud of orange dye billowed out of the cat and enveloped all four girls, the cat, and Naruto. Naruto was already wearing his favorite color, so he didn't care about the dye, but the girls' clothes all turned bright orange as well as their faces and hair. Naruto just smiled and set the cat down while the girls were still in shock. The now boy covered head to toe in orange sat down next to Choji, who was laughing hysterically. That was really mean, Naruto-kun. But you got yourself too, so I guess it wasn't that bad. Naruto beamed. See, I told you I'm the #1 prankster in the village. Choji looked to Naruto and said, yeah, but those girls are about to murder you. Naruto's house, after school. You did what? His mom screamed. It's just dye. It'll wash out. Jiraiya tried calming Kushina. But it's his first day. She screamed, exasperated. Jiraiya's arms were crossed and he was leaning against a wall while Kushina paced, fuming. Naruto just smiled. His mother had a temper, but she always calmed down quickly when he smiled and put his hand behind his head. He struck the pose that he knew would calm her down and said, "Yeah. I had to show them who the #1 prankster is. Choji didn't believe me and the girls were all mean." Kushina calmed down quickly. He looks just like Minato. But Minato was so serious at this age, Kushina thought. See, they probably deserved it anyway, Jiraiya said. Kushina glared at Jiraiya. Damn, Naruto thought, the old perv is gonna screw this up for me if he doesn't shut up already. Naruto wasn't sure what perv even meant, but he was pretty sure that it applied to Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sensei, why don't we work on my homework? Naruto asked, deflecting as much as he could. That sounds like a great idea, kiddo, Jiraiya said as he quickly grabbed Naruto and bolted at Sannin speed out of there before Kushina could kill him with kitchen utensils. 1 month later. This is taking forever, exclaimed Naruto. It's so boring. Jiraiya had been exceedingly patient with Naruto, but he still thought, damn. What I wouldn't give to be on the road doing research. And I would love to see the next wave of kunoichi they'll send to tempt me into divulging village secrets. That's always a good time. Naruto-chan, we talked about this, Kushina cooed. Some ninja are good at some things and other ninja are good at others. But everyone has to work at it. You have to become good at hard work even if you have a Kekkei Genkai or you'll never be great. Sasuke was there too. He figured that passing up the chance to train with a legendary Sannin would just be stupid. And Itachi was out on a mission anyway. Even Sasuke won't be a great ninja if he doesn't put in hard work. And he's already the top of your class. But if he doesn't train, if he doesn't put in the effort, he won't get any better, Kushina said again. She must have repeated the lecture 100 times since Naruto's first day. But she only added the part about the Kekkei Genkai when Sasuke was around. Jiraiya nodded in agreement. Naruto, you can't just skip this stuff because it's hard. This is why I'm sticking around, to teach you how to learn this stuff even though it's boring. Kakashi was in the window. Jiraiya-sama, Kushina-sama, I've had an idea about how to improve Naruto's studying ability. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow and Kushina looked at the copy nin who'd been away for months on a mission wondering what this revolutionary new idea could possibly be. It struck me that you might be teaching Naruto things out of order, Kakashi continued. Naruto already has a wealth of chakra. He could probably do a certain jutsu with minimal instruction. It doesn't require much skill at all to use and could significantly multiply Naruto's study time, if my guess is correct. Jiraiya immediately understood, but it took Kushina a few seconds to understand. Minato had been the brilliant one. Kushina had just worked her tail off, night and day, to try to catch him. You're suggesting that we teach him a B-rank jutsu to help Naruto study math? Jiraiya laughed. You must really want me to get back to writing. Kakashi looked at the floor with his hand behind his head and smiled behind his mask. No. I was suggesting we teach him the forbidden version of a B-rank jutsu to study math. Yes, Sasuke thought. I'll learn something really useful. Sasuke-chan, this is something that you'll have to ask your mother about, Kushina explained as if she'd read his mind. If you were a genin, then you could decide for yourself, but this isn't something that I'd feel comfortable teaching you. Sasuke was pissed, but he went home to ask his mother and Itachi about the study aid jutsu. We'll have to work on some other things first, but he'll be a first-rate student by next year, Jiraiya said. Several months later. Okay, Naruto. You've got enough chakra control to try this. You're still dead last in your class, but with this, you'll be able to study at lightning speeds. Jiraiya exclaimed dramatically. Show me already, pervy-sensei. Naruto asked excitedly. It's called Shadow Clone Jutsu, Jiraiya explained. Watch. He made the single-hand sign for the jutsu and poofed into 2 Jiraiyas. See, they said in unison. Jiraiya-sensei, how does that help? Naruto was confused. First, learn the jutsu. Then we'll explain, the 2 Jiraiyas. It didn't take long for Naruto to figure out how to channel his chakra into the jutsu. His first successful shadow clone filled the entire study room with clones. There were legs and arms everywhere, mashing everyone against walls and floor. Naruto couldn't get the exact number of clones right, but he could easily make too many instead of too few. After several practice runs, Jiraiya took Naruto to the library. Jiraiya checked out as many books on speed reading as the library had. Naruto, make a shadow clone for each of these books. Then, each shadow clone will read a different one of them. Naruto didn't understand, but did as he was instructed. He was still at the bottom of the class and wanted badly to improve. His mother had said that as long as he passed, his ranking didn't matter, but he wanted to show everyone that he could be good at things too. After about 3 hours of reading, most of the clones had finished their books and were practicing the speed reading techniques at the end. Jiraiya announced to the gaggle of Narutos, "Okay. Now, disperse the clones, one at a time." Naruto tried, but ended up dispersing them all at once. He still didn't quite get the big deal about them. Jiraiya picked up a book at random and asked Naruto about it. Naruto answered the question correctly and Jiraiya picked up another book. And another. Until Naruto figured it out. "Everything the clones learn, I remember when they disperse," he said excitedly. "Now you're getting it, kiddo," Jiraiya responded. "Every day, after school, I'm going to have 10 or 20 books ready for you to read, starting with these books on speed reading. You are going to be so good at academics after just a few weeks that they're gonna think you're a genius." And then he muttered, or cheating, under his breath and thought, which he kind of is. Taijutsu training with Kushina after school, several weeks later. "Why is Jiraiya-sensei leaving?" Naruto asked as he threw a wild punch. Kushina easily blocked it saying, "He has important work to do." Naruto tried a kick. "Writing his pervy novels. How do you know how pervy his novels are?" Kushina asked, knocking Naruto to the ground. "That's what everyone says," Naruto exclaimed as the ground knocked the wind out of him. Kushina sat down on the ground next to Naruto. "There's something that we need to discuss, Naruto." "Okay." Naruto was worried. His mother had never discussed anything seriously with him before. "It's about when you become a genin," she said. "Have you thought about who you'd like to be teamed up with and why?" Naruto thought for a few moments before answering. "I'd love to be with friends, but I wouldn't mind making new ones." "Naruto, I've seen how the Hokage works. I can guess what the teams will be. Some of them are already set, but some of them aren't. The ones that aren't are going to depend on academy grades," she explained. "So?" Naruto asked. "Sasuke is first in your class. If Jiraiya and Kakashi hadn't helped you study, you'd be last. Then you and he would end up on the same genin team. But your grades are improving rapidly now, so that probably won't happen." "So?" Naruto asked again. "Well, you've always worked extra hard to compete with Sasuke. The competition between you two is good. You are both becoming strong quickly. If you want to be on the same genin team as Sasuke, you're going to have to make sure that your grades are dead last." "What?" Naruto was floored. He'd have to do badly on purpose if he wanted to get stronger. "What the hell? I think you two would both get much stronger if you continued to compete with each other. The only reason I got to be as strong as I am and your father got as strong as he was is because we had someone to compete with," Kushina said with a far-off look. Naruto grumbled. He liked being good at school. Doing badly on purpose was not going to be easy, but if he could get stronger, he supposed that would be worth it. Naruto realized that it was the first time he'd ever heard his mother mention his father. "Who is my father?" Naruto asked innocently. "He was the only man I ever loved," Kushina said evasively. "Naruto will probably figure it out eventually. He looks so much like Minato. I don't want Naruto to get a big head about being the son of a Hokage. The Hyuga and the Uchiha have big enough heads for the entire village. But it's still an S-ranked village secret and the Hokage would have to approve disclosing it, even to Naruto," she thought. "Not that that would stop me." 2 years later, the morning after the Uchiha massacre. "What are those alarm bells?" Naruto shouted. He had spent at least an hour a day with 12 clones in the library every day since he learned the trick and knew everything publicly available. Some things he'd had to read twice, but he found that knowing the answers to things made life much easier than not knowing. He hated not knowing almost as much as he hated being ignored. "I don't know. I don't know," his mother said, still shocked. "Naruto, go to school. I have to speak with some people," she said distantly. So Naruto went to school. Sasuke or Shikamaru might know something. Itachi was in Anbu and he was probably part of whatever it was. "Shikamaru, do you know what's going on?" he asked as soon as he spotted the pineapple-haired boy. "I heard my father talking about it." Itachi went insane and killed all of the Uchiha except Sasuke. Everyone, Shikamaru informed Naruto. Naruto couldn't fathom it. Itachi had been such a nice older kid. He didn't seem like a psycho killer at all. He hadn't been around lately, but Naruto figured that was just because he and Sasuke were in the academy and Itachi was out on missions. What's going to happen to Sasuke? Is he okay? Naruto interrogated. I don't know. That's all I heard before I had to go to school, Shikamaru replied. That's so terrible, Choji said emptily. He wasn't even eating, he was so sad. The teachers came in with solemn expressions. Class, as some of you may have heard, there was an incident last night involving the Uchiha clan. Itachi Uchiha suddenly and without warning went on a rampage, killing everyone except Sasuke Uchiha. His motives and whereabouts are unknown, but the village has labeled him a missing nin. There are reports that he fled the village. There will be no class today while we try to get answers. The two Chunin left the stunned class. Naruto didn't know where to go. His mother wasn't going to be home and she was always there to let him in after school. He didn't like wandering the streets because of all the weird stares and occasional angry mobs from the villagers, but he felt like he had to do something. The only person that he could think of to find was the Hokage. The other students went home, but Naruto charged straight into the Hokage tower. The staff at the tower was so shocked by the boy that they didn't think to stop him. They all knew that he was the Jinchuriki and some of them were terrified of what might happen. Some of them just wanted to see what the notorious mischief maker was up to. And a few hoped he'd piss off the Hokage and get himself killed. Naruto burst into the Hokage's office. Jiraiya was already inside as was his mother. What the hell is going on, old man? Naruto yelled. Normally, Sarutobi enjoyed the high-energy antics of the blonde-haired youth, but today he had too much to deal with. I'm having a meeting about a massacre and I don't have time right now, Naruto. Please leave. Kushina went over to Naruto to shuffle him out of the office, but Naruto wouldn't back down. Damn it, I only have a few friends and one of them just lost his entire clan. At least tell me where he is. He's in the hospital. He was under a genjutsu for a very long time, Naruto. He needs to recover, his mother explained. Well, what's going to happen to him now? Is he going to stay all alone at the clan's estate? Naruto persisted. He'll get an apartment and live with the other orphans until he graduates, Kushina went on. Naruto was horrified. Orphans lived in a crummy, dilapidated building. He'd seen it before. It was one of those places filled with people ready to chase him and curse him on sight, if his mother or Jiraiya weren't around. Why? Why does he have to be alone? Naruto shouted. And then he uttered a plea that nobody had even considered. Why doesn't he just live with us? Everyone stopped. The Hokage looked at Kushina. Jiraiya looked at Kushina. Naruto looked at Kushina. Kushina blinked at Naruto. She couldn't think of any reason why he couldn't. She'd been friends with his mother for years and he'd been playing with Naruto since before they could walk. Sasuke didn't have any family to object. She turned from Naruto to look at the Hokage. Why can't he just live with us? She asked the old man. The Hokage blinked. Twice. It would be better than the apartments, he finally said. You can talk to him when he wakes up. Chapter 3. Hidden Leaf Hospital, Sasuke's room. Naruto and Kushina were in the room, watching the unconscious Sasuke twitch in his sleep. He was obviously having horrible nightmares. Sasuke rolled over and opened his eyes. What are you doing here? He asked the two Uzumakis. Why, Itachi? Why? Well, Sasuke, since you don't have anywhere else to stay, I volunteered to take you in. At least until you graduate from the academy, Kushina said. You're not my mother. You're not family. Go away, Sasuke said. As you know, Itachi killed all of your family. So I'm taking you in. Because Makoto was my friend and Uzumakis take care of their friends. And you don't have anywhere else to go, Sasuke, Kushina said, leaving no room for argument. Sasuke rolled over. Mom, does he even have a choice? Naruto asked. Well, he could run away. But then he'd never finish training to become a ninja. I don't know if that matters to him right now though, Kushina responded. Sasuke growled and said, fine. I'll live with you. Naruto's house. This is going to be hard, isn't it? Naruto asked. We've been studying with shadow clones for over 2 years, Naruto. Faking it at school is one thing, but faking it at home is going to be nearly impossible, Kushina replied. Should we even try? Naruto asked honestly. I don't know. I think honesty is the best way to go with your friends, and then she thought, he's gained decades of knowledge in only 2 years, but he's still a child. I have to remind myself that even when he acts older, he's still a child. Living a life and reading about it in books are two different things. Do you think he'll be able to trust us? Naruto interrupted his mother's thoughts. I don't know. He idolized Itachi. What did the psychology book say about betrayal? It said that it was a hard thing to recover from. And what about torture? And brainwashing? You don't know what that genjutsu was that Sasuke was trapped in, Kushina explained. And who do you think did it to him? Holy crap, Naruto whispered. Itachi must have done that to Sasuke. But why? We don't know. We may never know. Maybe Sasuke knows, but he might not want to share it with us. Okay. Honesty was your first instinct, right? It was mine too. One of the psychology books said that the best way to gain someone's trust was to simply be honest with them, so our instincts can't be too far off the mark. We should tell him at dinner. Ichiraku ramen. I'll pick it up. Make some shadow clones to clean up and make space for another bed. Sasuke is going to need a bed of his own. But until we figure out what he needs, get a futon for yourself and put clean sheets on your bed for Sasuke. Yes, Mom. 5 shadow clones poofed into the room and began cleaning. Hidden Leaf Hospital, front desk. Sasuke, we're going to have dinner at our house. I hope that you like ramen, because it's all I had time for tonight, Kushina explained to the quiet boy. Whatever, Sasuke grumbled. I will kill Itachi. In order to kill Itachi, I must learn as much as I can. In order to learn as much as I can, I must stay with these people, Sasuke thought, repeatedly. Kushina walked with Sasuke down the street to the apartment. Sasuke, I wondered what you might want from your house. We won't be able to get inside for a few days, so you'll be sleeping in Naruto's bed while he sleeps on the floor. Don't worry, I made sure that you have fresh sheets, she said to the despondent boy. Whatever, Sasuke grumbled. His thoughts were the same, but he paused when Kushina told him that Naruto would be on the floor. She's putting her own son on the floor instead of me. What the hell? And I want you to start training with us. I know that the Uchiha have their own secret techniques, but you might be surprised at what I can teach you. Sasuke grunted. What could she possibly teach me? Naruto is dead last in the class. He's a total moron. Kushina walked silently the rest of the way, only stopping once at a flower shop to place an order. She thought, it's almost Minato's birthday. I don't know if I can hide the trip to the graveyard from Naruto anymore. He hasn't asked about his father again, but I know he's curious. I wonder when he'll figure it out. They continued walking to the apartment where Kushina absently unlocked the door and ushered Sasuke in. There was a futon on the floor with blankets and a pillow set on it. Naruto was already setting the table and there was at least 10 gallons of ramen from Ramen Ichiraku. Naruto looked up, bowed, and said, Sasuke-san, welcome. Please sit and have some ramen. Naruto motioned to the table. When did he learn manners? Something is off here, Sasuke thought. He narrowed his eyes at Naruto and said, when did you learn manners? Well, he started, but Kushina interrupted. Sasuke, we have something to tell you. Please sit down, Kushina said gently. Naruto has been failing at the academy on purpose, Kushina explained. Are you serious? Why would he do that? Why would you let him do that? Sasuke questioned. I'm guessing that you already know that genin get assigned to teams when they graduate the academy, but do you know how the teams are formed? Kushina asked. The Hokage assigns them, Sasuke responded, sure that it didn't matter. Naruto was already slurping down soup and the noise was mildly distracting. Yes, but he assigns them on several factors. If any teams have historically done very well, the Hokage will try to recreate it with a new generation. Ino Shika Cho, for example. Beyond that, the Hokage tries to create balanced teams. When I was a genin, the lowest scoring student and the highest scoring student were paired with someone from the middle. And every year since then, the Hokage has done it that way. If you are the highest scoring student and Naruto is the lowest scoring student, Kushina trailed. Then we'll end up on the same genin team, Sasuke finished. He looked at Naruto and said, you want to be on the same team that badly. Why? Naruto looked down from his noodles and said, "We've always been friends, Sasuke. I wanted to make sure that I knew at least one person on my genin team." Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the blonde. "Just how smart are you?" Naruto finished his second bowl of ramen before answering. Kushina had begun devouring her ramen with as much gusto as Naruto had. "I'm not any smarter, Sasuke. I've just learned a whole lot more than I let on," Naruto explained. "How much more? What do you know?" Sasuke interrogated. "Math, history, literature, biology, physics, psychology, tea ceremony, smithing in theory, chemistry, poisons, cooking, basic chakra theory, basic battle tactics, human anatomy, and his face blushed, pervy stuff." "Naruto!" Kushina shouted. "I'm being honest." Naruto shouted in return. "How did you even get any of that material?" She shouted, disapprovingly. "We covered henge in class," he said sheepishly. "We're going to have to talk about that, Naruto. And it isn't going to be comfortable for either of us," she said as she slurped more ramen. How could you possibly know all of that?" Sasuke said, shocked. For once, he wasn't thinking about Itachi. "I don't believe it." Naruto looked at him and did a hand seal that Sasuke didn't recognize. There was a poof and then there were 5 of him. They huddled briefly, then each one hanged into a different character and began performing a scene from a play that Sasuke barely recognized. After the scene played out, Sasuke asked, "How do clones and illusions help you learn this?" "What's the point? They aren't regular clones," Naruto explained. "They're shadow clones. They take enormous amounts of chakra, but I have tons of chakra. And when they disperse, you remember everything that the clone experienced. Plus, using them almost constantly builds up my chakra level. I haven't actually compared, but I should have more chakra right now than most jonin. 2 years of studying about 50 hours every day. I finished the academy curriculum after the first 6 months. This is your secret study aid jutsu?" Sasuke asked. "Let me try." And he started forming the seals that Naruto had used. Kushina reached over and stopped Sasuke. "Later. You'll need to build up your chakra level first or you'll exhaust yourself and end up back in the hospital. We'll start work on that tomorrow. For now, just eat. You have school tomorrow." Ninja Academy, the next day. "Naruto?" Iruka-sensei asked. Naruto hadn't been paying attention. He was thinking about one of the books on torture recovery he'd read. He was still concerned about Sasuke. "Huh," he said. He didn't really have to act distracted. It was boring stuff. Stuff that he'd covered long ago. He was genuinely bored. "Tell the class what chakra is, Naruto," Mizuki-sensei said, annoyed. "It's a combination of physical and spiritual energy that ninja use," Naruto rattled off without thinking. Sasuke elbowed him in the ribs and whispered. "Idiot." Naruto thought, "Oh shit. I'm supposed to be dead last. What if they pick up on the charade? Gotta cover. And chakra is how you do cool jutsu like fireballs," he exclaimed, excitedly. The reality was that he thought fireballs were cool and he was excited to try them, but he knew that he needed a strong foundation in the basics before he started learning those things. And he didn't know anyone who would test his chakra affinity, so he didn't even know if he could do a fireball. But mostly, nobody would teach an academy student anything useful like that. Even Jiraiya-sensei and his mom told him to master the basics first. Mizuki-sensei responded, "Yes, Naruto. But chakra has many uses aside from just ninjutsu. There's also genjutsu, taijutsu applications, and medical jutsus." Naruto tuned him out again. One of his clones was in the library reading up on what little was available on genjutsu. He hoped the clone would finish soon and disperse so that he would have something else to think about. Shikamaru watched Naruto and Sasuke's brief exchange. He had gotten very good at analysis. His father was still better, but he was very good. Sasuke and Naruto were up to something. During lunch, Shikamaru made sure that he was alone with Naruto and Sasuke. "Okay. What's going on?" Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other. "If I slip up again, he'll probably figure it out anyway," Naruto said. "You can't unring a bell, Naruto," Sasuke said. "Shikamaru, you can't tell anyone. Not even Choji. Not until we're all at least genin." "Okay." Naruto asked his friend. "It's your secret. If you can't manage to keep it, it's not my fault." "But I won't tell anyone," Shikamaru responded. "It'd be too troublesome. I've been tanking academics, Naruto confessed. Why? Shikamaru couldn't figure it out. Naruto loved getting attention and being the top of the class would certainly have gotten him attention. If I'm top of the class or number 2, then there's no way that I'd be on the same genin team as Sasuke, Naruto responded. He liked Naruto and wanted to be on the same team as him. But he had also been friends with Ino and Choji practically since they were born. He wondered how the genin teams were assigned. You're going to be teamed up with Ino and Choji. Sasuke is my only other friend. I don't dislike any of the other kids, but it would just be easier to be on the same team as Sasuke, Naruto explained. Shikamaru looked thoughtful for a moment before saying, easier to pretend that you don't know anything and barely pass any of the tests than to just tell the Hokage that these are the lengths you are going to in order to ensure that you are paired up as genin. Naruto looked at Shikamaru. When you put it like that, it sounds like the Hokage might actually listen instead of just doing what he thinks is best. This way is much more likely to actually work, he said with a smirk. Shikamaru sighed. Telling would be too troublesome. It's just until we're genin, Shikamaru, Naruto assured his friend. Then I won't have to pretend to be totally clueless. Do you even care who else is on your team? Shikamaru asked. Naruto shrugged but Sasuke said harshly, someone who won't slow me down. Naruto said, I don't actually care. It'll probably be a girl, just by the numbers. I just hope it doesn't turn into some hopeless love triangle like in stories. Naruto's house, several years later, but a few months before academy graduation exams. You only have enough chakra for 8 shadow clones, Sasuke. Your chakra level is improving, but I'm concerned that you have ignored some areas of study. You shouldn't focus completely on battle skills. You need to keep up on the other stuff as well or you'll never be good at anything else, Kushina admonished Sasuke. Sasuke's bed and a few other things were in with Naruto's stuff in one room and Naruto was reading the chakra theory book again. What use will they be against Itachi? What if he comes back to finish the job? I don't need to know any of that, Sasuke replied calmly. And what about if you stop Itachi? What will you do then? Do you think that you'll only ever be given combat missions? We have been at peace for over a decade. Broaden your horizons, boy. There's more to life than fighting, Kushina shouted. Fine, Sasuke said, grudgingly picking up a book of poetry that Naruto always seemed to enjoy. Naruto felt a clone disperse. He had gotten his hands on an old enemy bingo book from the Third Great Ninja War. Naruto looked at Sasuke and decided to do something to cheer him up. Something that would probably spark a conversation with at least his mother and the Hokage. After Kushina left, Naruto said, Hey, Sasuke. Do you have enough chakra for a shadow clone right now? I want to do something and I'd like your help. Sasuke looked at Naruto, annoyed that he was interrupted. Fine, let's just hurry up. Naruto and Sasuke went out to Naruto's secret hiding spot behind a hardware store. Naruto grabbed buckets of paint and handed two to Sasuke. We're going to make a statement to the village, Sasuke. He smiled evilly. Sasuke was keeping watch while Naruto painted graffiti and swirls on the first 3 Hokage's faces. He left the 4th untouched. With Sasuke on watch, the pranksters spotted the Chunin before they were close enough to see the boys. Naruto, incoming. Let's go, Sasuke said calmly. It's no fun if they don't know it was me, Sasuke. Get out of here. I'll be fine, Naruto said. You'll get in trouble, Naruto. Come on. Don't mess around. Let's go. It's the fastest way to see the Hokage. I have questions that only he can answer. I need you to tell my mother that I did this to talk to him. Please, Naruto pleaded. Fine, Sasuke said as the clone dispersed. 2 Chunin approached and Naruto said, well, let's get this over with. Take me to the old man. Naruto, flanked by the 2 Chunin, went straight to the Hokage tower where Sarutobi was waiting, smoking his pipe. Leave us. I want to speak with Naruto alone, the old man said to the Chunin. Mom should be here soon. I don't want to have this conversation twice. But tell me, am I right? Sarutobi raised an eyebrow under his hat. Right about what, Naruto? Minato Namikaze was my father. Naruto brought out a beaten and weathered book with 1 page dog-eared and tossed it to the Hokage. It was the bingo book that his clone had been reading earlier from the Third Great Ninja War. There isn't much personal information about him in any of the history books, but I found this earlier today. He's 16 in the picture. I look just like him. When I first saw it, I thought, why am I in a bingo book from so long ago? Kushina arrived at the top of the tower where Naruto and Sarutobi were talking. Sasuke had told her that Naruto was seeing the Hokage and she'd seen the graffiti on the monument. She figured that Naruto knew about his father. "Naruto, are you alright?" she asked. Naruto just looked hurt when he faced her. "Why was it such a big secret? Couldn't you have just told me?" "There's more to it than that, Naruto," Sarutobi spoke up. "He wanted you to have a normal life." Kushina looked at Sarutobi as if she wanted to kill him. "He wanted Naruto to be a hero. I wanted him to have a normal life." Naruto looked at his mother. "What? I knew that you would have to grow up to become a great shinobi. That it would hard and lonely. But I want you to have friends. I want you to have fun and enjoy life. I want you to know love. How could you do that if you thought that you had to live up to Minato? How fair would that have been, to put such pressure on you?" Kushina started tearing up. It would be too cruel. She started sobbing, letting it all out for the first time in 13 years. "I couldn't do that to you. You're all I have." Naruto had never seen his mother cry. He didn't know what to do, how to respond. He wanted to be mad. He wanted to be pissed that they kept something like this from him. But seeing her in tears, he just couldn't be angry. It hurt him to watch her suffer and to know that it was because of him. His childish outburst. His stupid mouth. "Naruto," Sarutobi interrupted. "This was a secret that was meant to protect you. Are you familiar with the Hyuga clan?" Naruto turned. "Hinata is in my class, but I don't really know much about them." "How is this relevant?" "Just pay attention. Several years ago, a rival village sent ninja to collect the Hyuga's Kekkei Genkei. They kidnapped the heir to the clan and tried to blackmail the clan head. The heir, Hinata, was only 4 at the time. She was a target because of her clan. Because of her affiliation with the Hyuga. We made sure that any enemies that Minato had wouldn't target you by hiding your affiliation." Sarutobi tapped his pipe and took another drag before continuing. "It wouldn't be wise to advertise your lineage because you only have yourself, your mother, and now Sasuke Uchiha for protection. Kushina is a formidable kunoichi." He turned to Kushina, who should come back to active duty, by the way, and turned back to Naruto, "but there is only so much that she can do if it gets out. You should be safe at home, but you never know who will decide to sell this information to a potential enemy." Kushina had been composing herself after her emotional breakdown, but she looked up at the Hokage and choked out, "I want his things back." Sarutobi thought, "I should have known she would. You know that I can only give you his civilian things. His ninja gear is sealed in the vault." She composed herself. Her voice was hard now. "That's all I care about anyway. And there is a kunai as well. Just the one. It has sentimental value." Sarutobi nodded, leaving the two alone atop the tower, and prepared to have Minato's things removed from the storage vault. Naruto looked at his mother and said, "I'm sorry for hurting you, Mom." Kushina just hugged him silently. Naruto's house, that evening. "Why are you putting up pictures of you in the 4th Hokage, Kushina-san?" Sasuke asked. Naruto looked at Sasuke. He picked up a picture of Kushina and Minato from their academy graduation and put it next to his face. He motioned between his face and the picture of Minato. "No way!" Sasuke exclaimed in shock. Naruto nodded. "We only ever mention it here though. Nobody else can know. Although, some of the other Leaf Ninja will probably figure it out eventually, if they haven't already figured it out. But we don't have to help them by advertising," Naruto said. "I wonder what other secrets we don't know. How will I know when I'm ready to face Itachi? I have to be sure or I'm screwed," Sasuke thought. "Living here has gotten me at least as far as I saw Itachi get with certain techniques, but without my Sharingan I'll never touch him. I have to figure out how to awaken it." Chapter 4. Naruto. "Pay attention," Uruka-sensei shouted. "Huh." Naruto turned to the Chunin instructor. "You have to do the clone jutsu," Mizuki-sensei said, expecting the blonde child to fail. Naruto idly did the hand signs and made the requisite 3 basic clones. It had taken him months of practice to do a basic academy clone instead of a shadow clone, but he'd finally gotten it down. "You pass," Mizuki was disappointed. "The brat is supposed to fail, damn it. He hasn't made a single clone in practice, let alone 3. How can I manipulate him if he passes? Crap." I'll have to think of some other way to take revenge on that damned Kyuubi. Naruto had gotten the bare minimum correct on the written test to pass, and he needed to pass all 3 practical tests in order to graduate. He and Sasuke had long since mastered the practical skills to the point that they didn't even need to use hand signs anymore. The two had even practiced using them in their taijutsu sparring sessions. But the test didn't call for that level of skill, and showing off wouldn't help his goals. Iruka returned Naruto's contagious smile. Whatever happened 13 years ago, Naruto isn't the Kyuubi. He's just not that psychotic. The students who passed that final test received headbands with the leaf symbol with instructions to return in the morning for assignments. Naruto, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, and some pink-haired girl went out to celebrate. Sasuke didn't want to, but neither did Shikamaru. Choji and Ino convinced Shikamaru to come out, while Naruto convinced Sasuke to go. Naruto didn't know what the deal was with the pink-haired girl, but she and Ino were constantly fighting over something. "Hi, I'm Naruto. Who are you?" he asked. "I know who you are, moron. We're in the same class. You're always playing pranks on everyone, and I can't believe you actually passed," the pink-haired girl said with venom. "Oh come on, have a sense of humor. You can't be that mad," Naruto replied. Pink hair was definitely exotic, and he had just started to notice things like that on girls. The pink-haired girl merely ignored him and walked next to Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun, I'm so glad that you decided to celebrate with us," the girl cooed. "Are you kidding me? She likes Sasuke. Too bad for her, he's not into romance at all. That time I showed him one of Ero-sensei's books was hilarious though," Naruto mused. Naruto went over to Ino and said, "Hi Ino. What do you feel like tonight? Choji probably wants barbecue." "Shut up, moron. I'm trying to listen to Sasuke," Ino replied coldly. "Oh, come on. Is every girl in the village obsessed with him, or is someone playing a massive joke on me?" Naruto thought. Screw it. I'll just focus on becoming Hokage. That'll teach them for pulling this kind of joke on me. The group was stopped by a man about 50 years old with strange markings on his face and long, spiky, white hair. "This year's graduating class, huh? Who've we got here?" Jiraiya asked. Shikamaru bowed and said, "It's an honor, Jiraiya-sama. I am Shikamaru Nara. This is Choji Akamichi, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, and Naruto." "Hey, Ero-sensei. How's the latest book?" Naruto interrupted with a smile. Sakura shouted, "You can't talk to one of the legendary Sannin like that, you moron." Jiraiya chuckled. "You're absolutely right, Sakura-chan, right. He should be more respectful of his elders." "Shut it, Ero-sensei. Or I'll tell them about that time you took me to the hot springs and," Jiraiya clapped a hand over Naruto's mouth, smiling nervously. "The class clown moron knows Jiraiya-sama." Sakura sputtered. "And has blackmail material on a Sannin. Weird," Shikamaru thought. Sasuke maintained his usual calm demeanor, but everyone else was shocked into silence. "Let me buy you all dinner," Jiraiya said, keeping his hands firmly wrapped around Naruto's mouth. Choji was the first and most eager to reply, "We would be honored, Jiraiya-sama," with a bow and a smile in his eyes. At the barbecue restaurant, Jiraiya emptied his wallet, paying for a meal that included both Naruto and Choji. Naruto wouldn't tell anyone how he knew Jiraiya, and Jiraiya just kept saying, "We met a long, long time ago." The group of freshly minted genin and one Sannin left later than anyone anticipated, so Jiraiya offered to make sure everyone made it home without incident. Sasuke and Naruto were the last of the group with Jiraiya. "Sasuke-kun, where are you staying?" Jiraiya asked. "He's staying with us. Which you'd know, if you'd come around more often, Ero-sensei," Naruto replied. Jiraiya winced. "I'm sorry, Naruto. But I had important research to do," Jiraiya lied. "I wish I didn't have to lie about that." The three walked into the apartment and Jiraiya stopped when he noticed the pictures. "I see. You know about Minato then." Kushina punched Jiraiya hard enough to knock him through the closed door and into the opposite wall. "Hello, Jiraiya-sensei," she said through the hole in the door, smiling. "Next time, please tell me that you are going to be keeping my son and nephew out late so that I don't worry." She turned to the two and wrapped them in a big hug. "Congratulations. You both made it. I knew you would. I can't believe I'm used to this kind of emotional outburst." An Uchiha would never have shown this little self-control. Sasuke thought, but he didn't complain. Jiraiya picked himself up and entered the apartment again. I guess I'll talk to Kushina in the morning. Damn, but those kids can eat. Hidden Leaf Ninja Academy, the next morning. Team 7, led by Kakashi Hatake, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki, Ruruka said. Kakashi waved at the three. The only other Sharingan user left in the village. Perfect, Sasuke thought. How awesome is this? Kakashi is going to be my Jonin sensei. Naruto thought. I'm on Sasuke's team. I'll win his heart for sure. Sakura thought. Meet me on the roof, Kakashi said as he thought. I really hope that they pass. I don't want to fail Minato sensei's son. The three genin went out to the roof where they waited for Kakashi. He didn't show up immediately and Sakura started to get restless. Where is this guy? How long are we going to have to wait? Sakura complained. Sakura-chan, please be more patient. I'm pretty sure that I know where Kakashi-sensei is right now and he'll get here when he's ready, Naruto admonished the girl. When did he get so mature? Sakura thought. Naruto knows, copy, Kakashi too. Who else does he know? Sasuke thought. Naruto. Don't think that because we've met before that I'll let you get away with anything. Kakashi said sternly. Yes, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said, startled. Now that you're all here, we should all introduce ourselves. Start off by telling everyone your name, your hobbies, your dreams, and your goals, Kakashi said. Sakura-chan, was it? You first. Well, can you show us what you mean, Kakashi-sensei? I'm not sure I understand what you want, Sakura said. Okay. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I have many hobbies, but I like to read. My dreams died. My goal is to make sure that you are all worthy of being ninja of the leaf. Your turn, Sakura-chan. The pink-haired girl was a little stunned at how jaded the Jonin's answers seemed, but collected herself after a moment. My name is Sakura Haruno. My hobbies include flower arranging and, she mumbled something that only Kakashi managed to hear, my dream is to win the love of a certain someone. My goal is to be noticed by a certain someone, she blushed profusely. Naruto rolled his eyes. So much for avoiding romantic entanglements, he thought. I'll go next. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My hobbies include learning everything about everything and eating delicious food like ramen. My dream is to become an even greater Hokage than the fourth. My goals are to help my teammates and to be acknowledged by the village, Naruto said, striking a determined pose. Since when do you learn anything, idiot? Sakura said incredulously. You'd be surprised, Sasuke said, rolling his eyes. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I don't have any hobbies. I don't have any dreams. My goal is to grow strong enough to beat and capture or kill a certain man, Sasuke said. It's Itachi, Naruto whispered to Kakashi. Shut up, Naruto. Sasuke screamed. You think he doesn't already know? That was for Sakura, Naruto replied, winking to her. Kakashi just looked at the three genin and smiled. They're so young. They're lucky that we aren't at war. There will be plenty of time for them to grow up. Okay. That was great. I'm glad we had this little talk, but you should know that you aren't officially genin yet. There's still one more test that you have to take, and if you don't pass, you'll have to go back to the academy, Kakashi explained. The three genin were silent, waiting for the Jonin to explain. Meet me at Training Ground 17 tomorrow at 8 o'clock. It's going to be extremely physical, so make sure that you don't eat anything for breakfast. You don't want to throw up. See you tomorrow, he smiled and waved before a puff of smoke replaced him and he was gone. Naruto turned to his new team, frowned, and said, that isn't right. What do you mean? Sakura asked. If it's going to be that physically demanding, we should eat only certain types of food that will make sure that we have energy, but won't take long to digest, like fruits and vegetables, Naruto explained. How do you know that? You failed biology, Sakura said. Yeah, on purpose, Sasuke said. Stamina Freak here knows more about nutrition than most doctors. What? How can you defend him, Sasuke? Sakura shouted. Because I've seen it. I've been living with him since the massacre. He'd have graduated years ago, if his mother would have let him, Sasuke explained. No. That would make him some kind of genius. There's just no way. Sakura tried to reconcile what she'd seen of Naruto at the academy with a super genius who knew so much and she just couldn't do it. Not a genius, Sakura-chan. Just determined, Sasuke said cryptically. I'll tell you all about it after we pass that test tomorrow, Sakura-chan, Naruto reassured. Sasuke-kun trusts the idiot. I don't know about this, but I guess if Sasuke-kun trusts him, I'll trust him too, Sakura thought. Oh, shit. Kakashi already knows, Naruto paled. It was his idea in the first place, Naruto continued. Sasuke and Sakura both stared at him. Training Ground 17, the next morning. Sakura-chan, did you eat breakfast like I explained? Naruto asked as she arrived. Even though Kakashi-sensei said not to eat anything, yes. I ate some fruit, Naruto. She had to admit that she felt much better than if she hadn't eaten anything. The three waited for several hours alone at the training ground. Naruto and Sasuke argued about training while they waited, but Sasuke refused to waste energy before the test, so Naruto practiced taijutsu by himself. When did his taijutsu get so good? Sakura thought as she watched Naruto practice. His moves were never that clean at the academy. Just what the hell is going on here? She wondered. I've failed over 20 teams, Kakashi said calmly, perched on a post. Are you that confident in your abilities, Naruto? I got bored, Kakashi-sensei. But I'm pretty confident too, he responded. Well, is everyone ready for the test? Kakashi asked. Yes. The genin responded enthusiastically. Kakashi raised 2 bells and explained, your test is to get these bells from me. There are only 2 bells though, so only 2 of you can pass. The genin were all shocked at that. You'll have to come at me with everything you've got. Don't hold back or there's no way you'll be able to pass. Naruto ran at the genin, trying to tackle him immediately, but Kakashi wasn't there and Naruto's tackle went through empty space. I didn't say, go, yet, Naruto, Kakashi wagged a finger at Naruto. Then say, go, already, Naruto grumbled as he stood up. Go, Kakashi said. Sakura jumped behind some trees. Sasuke did the same, but left behind a shadow clone and 2 regular clones. Naruto just swarmed the entire open space with dozens of shadow clones while he moved around. You want to face me head on? Kakashi said. That's not a good idea, as he formed hand signs faster than the genin could follow. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. The majority of Naruto's shadow clones dispersed along with Sasuke's shadow clone in the massive inferno Kakashi exhaled. Sasuke screamed from the psychic shock of being killed. Naruto just frowned and made more shadow clones. Kakashi leapt back onto the creek and formed more unreadable hand signs. Water style. Water Dragon Jutsu. The massive water dragon swept away more of the clones, but Naruto immediately made more to replace them. Kakashi moved back onto the ground and quickly formed another set of unreadably fast hand signs. Earth style. Multiple suicide decapitation jutsu. The remaining Narutos sank into the ground up to their necks while Kakashi formed more hand signs. Water style. Water bullet jutsu. Sakura watched as Kakashi executed those advanced ninjutsu techniques in rapid succession against what looked like an army of Narutos. If Naruto is forcing Kakashi to use those techniques, I'm going to be the one who goes back to the academy. Sasuke is probably planning an ambush and that's the only way I'll be able to stay with him. If you overdo it early, you'll never succeed, Naruto, Kakashi said. Overdo it? I haven't even gotten warmed up, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto screamed. Sasuke, Sakura, get your out here and help me or none of us will pass. And Naruto summoned another army of shadow clones who all threw a barrage of kunai at the genin. The kunai riddled Kakashi's body, but then it poofed into a log. He's pretty good, Kakashi thought from a tree branch. But it doesn't matter for this exercise. Kakashi spotted Sakura's hiding spot and body flickered behind her. Hello, Sakura-chan, he waved, smiling at her behind his mask. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing jutsu. Sakura's eyes went wide and glassy as she was caught in the genjutsu. She sat there while Kakashi tried to find the real Naruto and Sasuke. He spotted them quickly and set up a few ambushes for the two. I wonder what those two are up to, he thought. You know she's the one who's going back, Naruto, Sasuke said. No. We'll all fail together, damn it, Naruto said. This is our team and I'm not going to lose someone on our first day. We'll just figure out what happens after that. If Naruto was alone, he'd have just passed, but I can't pass the whole team just on his performance, Kakashi thought. Time to chat, Kakashi asked, while reading his book. He engaged Sasuke in taijutsu to tire the Uchiha out and was surprised at Sasuke's skill. It wasn't near Kakashi's level, but it was better than a normal academy graduate's taijutsu. Kakashi kept Sasuke and Naruto on the defensive for several long minutes, until Sasuke was sweating and breathing heavily. Naruto wasn't even breathing hard yet. Slowing down, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto asked as 20 of him engage the Jonin. Damn, Naruto's taijutsu is pretty good too, Kakashi thought as he absent-mindedly dispelled clone after clone. And his stamina is insane, as I expected. I don't know how I can push him to the limits of his endurance. He might have more than I do. But then, he's not the one I have to push. Kakashi started attacking Sasuke again, but when he landed a hit, it dispersed just like a shadow clone. Kakashi looked around quickly and saw both genin heading deeper into the forest. Huh, Naruto must have taught him the shadow clone jutsu. Naruto found Sakura lying on the ground where Kakashi had left her. He built up enough chakra to level a house and touched Sakura with it. Ah, she screamed. Relax. I think you were under a genjutsu, Sakura-chan, Naruto whispered. We have to come up with plan. Yeah, right. You two are just trying to figure out how to use me to get the bells, Sakura said. That must have been some jutsu to get her to turn on Sasuke, Naruto thought. Sasuke shook his head. No, just me. Naruto thinks we should all fail together. Or at least go down fighting. None of us can get the bells alone. If we work together, then we might be able to get them. We can decide who gets the bells later, Naruto said. Sakura said, and you two will just decide to take the bells and I'll be back at the academy. Naruto looked at Sakura, figuring that she didn't want to be left behind. No, if it comes to it, I'll go back to the academy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. If we work together, we might be able to get the bells. If we don't, then we'll all fail. And then he thought, I can't be the first genin to think of this. Something about this test isn't right. Kakashi interrupted the three with a smile and a wave. Sasuke jumped back to get more space, but Naruto stood in front of Sakura with a kunai out. That was a move, trapping her in a genjutsu while you fought the two of us, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi shrugged. We're ninja, and launched another offensive while reading his book. This time, he went after Sakura, but Naruto kept putting himself in front of her. She wasn't even close to Naruto and Sasuke when it came to taijutsu. It didn't matter though because Naruto just kept taking hits for her while Kakashi watched Sasuke set up some traps. When Kakashi finally knocked the real Naruto out, Sasuke tried to get close to pull Naruto out, but Kakashi didn't leave an opening. Sakura was sweaty and shaking on her feet from just the few seconds she'd tried taijutsu. None of them got close enough to the bells to even make a grab, but Naruto woke up after less than a minute and tried to grab a bell from under Kakashi, but Kakashi sent him flying with a mule kick before he got close, knocking Naruto out again when he hit a tree. Sakura screamed, "Are you trying to kill him, Kakashi-sensei? Stop. Naruto needs help. The test isn't over, Sakura-chan," Kakashi replied, still fighting and reading his book. Sakura ran to Naruto and Kakashi kept fighting Sasuke while she was checking her fallen teammate. Sasuke looked at Kakashi in disgust and fought harder, hoping to distract the Jonin long enough for the others to escape or at least get up. Naruto got back up, shaking his head, as Sakura was checking him for a pulse. "I'm tougher than you might think, Sakura. Now help us out here," Naruto said as he made another dozen shadow clones and charged the Jonin. Sakura watched as her two teammates fought with skills that she couldn't hope to match that day and charged in as well, pulling out her kunai. The three put Kakashi on the defensive, but only just, and he backed away. Sasuke pushed himself well beyond what he thought he could take, but Kakashi was still too fast for him. In the middle of the match, however, Naruto noticed Sasuke's eyes change from black to red with one tomo in one eye and two tomo in the other. Sasuke was significantly faster after his eyes activated and the three managed to push Kakashi back, but Kakashi was still better than Sasuke and the four-way taijutsu match continued. Sakura was the first to be caught in Kakashi's traps, but Sasuke and Naruto weren't far behind. As the three swung in their respective nets, Kakashi held up a hand and said, "That was an intense workout, wouldn't you say?" Sasuke even activated his Sharingan, but I think it's time for us to take a break and have some lunch. Unfortunately, Sakura, since you did the worst this morning, you shouldn't get any, but Naruto broke the rules, so you'll get his instead. Kakashi cut them all loose and brought them to the entrance of the training ground where he brought out 2 lunches and tied Naruto to a post. I'll be back, so hurry up and eat, Kakashi said and then poofed. I'm freaking starving, Naruto said as he watched the other 2 eat. You shouldn't have jumped the gun, Sakura said. It was hard to stay mad at him after he took such a pummeling for her, but she couldn't shake the image of him as the class clown. Screw that. We all need to be strong if we hope to get those bells. We really can't do this alone. I have some ideas for how we can work together better too, Sasuke said as he fed Naruto some of his lunch. Sakura was hungry, but if it hadn't been for Naruto, she'd be the one tied to the post and she'd be starving instead of just hungry. She sighed and said, "You're right," as she gave Naruto some of her lunch as well. What are you doing? Boomed Kakashi. We're not going to let Naruto starve just because he broke a stupid rule, Sakura said. Oh, Kakashi asked. We can't beat you without him, Kakashi-sensei, so yes, we disobeyed, Sasuke said. In that case, you all, Kakashi paused, pass, with a thumbs up. The 3 genin looked at him, confused. Those who break the rules are trash. But those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash, Kakashi explained. This test was never about who got the bells. Kakashi pulled out his own lunch and another for Naruto before untying him. I was surprised that the Hokage put you all on the same team. Naruto should be at the top of the class and the teams are usually balanced, he said sitting against a log. Sakura is number 1 in academics and Sasuke is number 1 in practical. I can't believe that you were dead last, Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke both looked at Kakashi and Naruto said, I tanked academics and practical so I'd get teamed up with Sasuke. Kakashi smiled and said in shock, you've got to be kidding me. Sasuke said, nope, while Naruto just beamed a smile. Sakura was just confused by the exchange. Kakashi-sensei, why would you think Naruto would be at the top of the class? He's always pulling pranks and barely passed anything the entire time he was at the academy. I helped Naruto when he was first starting at the academy. I showed him a way to study so that he would be able to do very well. It's something that only someone with a very high level of stamina could pull off though, Kakashi said. Sakura thought and ate for a few moments before asking Naruto, does it have to do with the weird clones that you make? Kakashi interjected, oh ho. You're a sharp one, Sakura-chan. Sasuke made just one and when you dispelled it, he was in pain for a moment. Which must mean that anything that the clone experiences, the original will experience when the clone dispels. And Naruto pumps out shadow clones like they don't cost him anything, which means he must have not only absurd stamina, but immense chakra reserves, she mused. How long have you been using shadow clones to train, Naruto? Since about the middle of our first year, he said. If you averaged 20 clones a day, you'd have covered the entire curriculum in no time. Why didn't you graduate early? Sakura wondered aloud. Short version, Mom wouldn't let me. She said we aren't at war and there's no reason to cut my childhood short, he explained. Then Sakura realized something else. Kakashi dispelled hundreds of your clones. Why didn't that hurt you? It did. I just didn't pay attention to it, he smiled. Not only is he a stamina freak, but he gets killed hundreds of times as part of his battle tactics and doesn't even flinch. There is something seriously not right about Naruto, Sakura thought. Chapter 5. Team 7 had completed their 27th D-rank mission in only 6 days. Sakura was exhausted. Between the back-to-back missions every day and Sasuke and Naruto's insistence on training every night, she could barely move when she got home at night. The day Kakashi met them for the normal morning update on missions and simply said, today, we're taking a break to visit the village monuments, she broke down in tears and hugged the Jonin. She didn't care that she'd racked up a month's worth of mission pay in only a week, she was just glad for the forced rest. And this is the Hokage monument. Naruto, would you like to tell everyone why you come up here so often? Kakashi said as the quartet stood on the side of the cliff. Kakashi had given them the tree climbing exercise on their second day, so they were all practicing vertical surface walks on the Hokage monument. Well, it used to be because I could see the whole village and everyone would have to look up to me. I really like the idea of being admired by the village instead of the weird looks everyone always gives me. But, after a while, I got used to the calm up here. It's very quiet. I also talk to them sometimes, Naruto explained. Of course, he's got a screw loose. Such a freak, Sakura thought. After the second week of relentless missions and training, Team 7 visited the empty Uchiha compound. Sakura was surprised that she wasn't as exhausted as the first week. She was stronger and faster due to the training, but her chakra level was also increasing. She was still exhausted at the end of every day, but she wasn't so tired that she slept in her clothes that second week. This is where Itachi killed my cousin. This is where Itachi killed my aunt and uncle. This is where Itachi killed my other cousins, Sasuke narrated the tour. When they got to Sasuke's house, he stood outside, frozen. You don't have to do this, if you don't want to. We can do something else. Whatever you want to do that isn't training or missions, Sasuke, Naruto soothed. No, I want to show you this. I want you all to know, Sasuke said. He reached out and slid open the door to his home, the memories flooding back as if it had been yesterday. This is where I found Itachi S, standing over our parents W, with his sword C, covered in their blood. This is where he told me that if I wanted to live, I should run away. And this is where he trapped me in Tsukuyomi. Sasuke's voice got hard when he said the last part. For 3 days. I had no idea. No wonder he constantly trains. How awesome is he? Sakura thought. After another week of missions and practice, Sakura was actually able to get into pajamas before bed instead of just stripping off her gear and collapsing into a heap. She was surprised when Kakashi met her at her door at the end of the week though. Kakashi-sensei, what's up? Sakura asked. Tomorrow is a day off and it's your turn to decide what we do. What would you like to do tomorrow as a group? Kakashi asked. But no training or missions. Sakura thought for a few minutes and realized that with the amount of mission pay they were racking up, she had a whole lot of money to burn. Shopping, she said firmly. And maybe a trip to the spa. Kakashi smiled reluctantly and said, it's your day, so shopping it is. Meet at the normal place at the normal time and we'll all go together, before poofing away. And that was how Team 7 went on a shopping spree with Sakura. The boys were bored senseless and Naruto asked if he could spin off some shadow clones to do some training, but Kakashi told him that they were to stay together all day. Then Sakura took them all to the spa for facials, manicures, pedicures, mud baths, and massages. She felt it was a very relaxing day. The boys came around after the massages. The Hokage's office. I'm sorry, Kakashi, but there aren't any more D-rank missions. You'll have to wait for more, do some training, or take a C-rank mission, the Hokage explained. The other Jonin are angry that you've taken so many missions, so even if more missions come in, I'm afraid that I'm going to have limit the number that you can take in a month. The 3 genin were looking at Kakashi like they'd just caught him with his hand in the cookie jar. I knew it, Sakura thought. Why has he been pushing us so hard on this easy stuff? We need to step it up and take something fun, Naruto thought. Finally, no more crappy, catch my missing cat, missions, Sasuke thought. Kakashi had his hand behind his head. Well, I guess we can do some training for a few days while I figure out if we're ready for a C-rank mission, Kakashi smiled through his mask. Kakashi's idea of training, however, was not skill improvement. He decided to ask the other Jonin if they could work together on their missions. Kakashi had to agree not to split the pay, however, which meant that Team 7 spent the week working for free. A fact that did not escape Kushina. Kakashi's apartment. Kakashi-chan, just take a C-rank mission. Naruto and Sasuke have been asking you for at least a week. You're making them work for free. And I don't know how much more of their training poor Sakura can take, Kushina lectured. Kushina-san, we aren't at war, so I'm taking things as slowly as I can, Kakashi countered. By doing 5 missions a day. Are you trying to break records? Kushina interrogated. Naruto has the stamina to handle it and so do the others. Their teamwork is almost perfect now, so I'm going to ask for a C-rank mission in a few days. However, the Hokage mentioned something about you starting back to active duty and I didn't want to leave before you started, Kakashi said. You're waiting on me. Kushina was shocked. Kakashi looked at the floor. Yes, he admitted. You shouldn't sit at home worrying. Minato-sensei would have wanted you to do something. To contribute. I'll speak with the Hokage in the morning, Kushina replied. Team 7's normal meeting place, 3 hours later than normal. Kakashi isn't usually this late, Sakura whined. Naruto had long since given up being patient and was practicing throwing kunai and taijutsu with dozens of clones while another dozen clones practiced sealing and unsealing with storage scrolls. Sasuke leaned casually against the fence and sighed, bored. What is up with Naruto? Sakura finally asked Sasuke. How can he keep going like that? He's a stamina freak. His mom is the same way. Half the reason I got so far ahead, physically, the last few years is because those two are relentless. It's the only area where he's legitimately better than me, Sasuke responded. It was nice that Sakura wasn't fawning over him, but it was also still a little weird. His mom? Sakura asked. Kushina-san. She's got red hair and a fiery temper, but she cares a lot. Without her, I'd probably still be so obsessed with Itachi that I couldn't see straight, Sasuke admitted. I'm pretty sure she's S rank, but she hasn't been on active duty since Naruto was born. S rank with red hair and hasn't been active since before the Kyuubi incident. I'll have to remember to look her up. What's her maiden name? Sakura asked. Uzumaki is her maiden name, Sasuke said tersely. But don't bother looking her up. Ask Kakashi about her. What, is there some village secret about her and Naruto? She asked, jokingly. Sasuke sat silently. You're messing with me, right? Sakura asked. He knows Jiraiya-sama of the Sannin, personally. You've heard how he gets away with addressing the Hokage. And he knew Kakashi, personally, before our team formed. I told you that I'm pretty sure his mother is S-ranked. None of the adults will talk about it at all. Do you really think I'm messing with you? He looked her square in the eyes. Holy shit. This team is seriously unbalanced. No wonder Kakashi was surprised, she trailed. Since you started training with Naruto, you're getting much stronger than I would have ever thought, Sasuke admitted. If you keep pushing yourself, you'll be much better than most of the rest of our class. It's probably unfair to them, but the Hokage isn't going to break up a bunch of teams just to rearrange us. It's actually beneficial for you that this happened, because you're getting stronger much faster than if we'd been a balanced team, Sasuke mused. Kakashi chose that moment to poof next to them. He waved, hello, Team 7, and smiled behind his mask. Naruto dispelled all of his clones and joined the rest of the team. Hey, Kakashi-sensei. What are we doing today? Didn't I tell you? We're taking a few days off. We have a joint escort mission going into the desert and it's going to be a long trip, Kakashi explained. Great. Naruto cheered. So we're going to do some training, right? I'll show you some exercises, but no heavy training. I don't want the team worn out, he stared at Naruto, before we even leave. Rest up and meet at the gates first thing in the morning in 3 days. Naruto frowned and grumbled, fine. When Naruto and Sasuke got home, they were surprised to find Kushina examining a topless woman whose black hair was tied up. Mom. Naruto started. Should we come back later? His mind was filled with mental images conjured from Jiraiya's books and he suddenly felt a little sick. No. It's fine. I'm just examining this seal Anko-chan has on her neck. There are actually 2 of them. One is the actual thing and the other is a suppressing seal, Kushina said absently. You're gonna learn about the naughty bits sooner or later, Anko smiled. Might as well do it under parental supervision, Kushina stopped examining the seal and looked at Anko. Please, put on a shirt, Anko-chan, she said soberly. She changed her tone as she faced Naruto and Sasuke. What are you doing home so soon? Aren't you supposed to be on missions or training? Nah, Naruto answered. Kakashi said we have a long mission in a couple of days and he didn't want me tiring out the wimps, he motioned to Sasuke. Shut up, stamina freak. Only you could keep up that pace, Sasuke retorted. Well, since you're here, I might as well tell you in person. I went on active duty today and my first mission involves Anko-chan. I'm going to be gone for a few weeks while we work together, so you'll be on your own until you leave with Kakashi-chan, Kushina explained. Sasuke-chan, I believe that you need to practice with your Sharingan. Makoto mentioned a tablet once, so go find that on the Uchiha grounds and see if it helps. Naruto-chan, there are some scrolls for you to study in your room and Jiraiya-sensei should come by with a summoning contract for you to sign before you go. Kushina rushed over to the genin and wrapped them in a big hug, saying, "You boys be careful and make sure to come back, okay? I love you both." Naruto replied, "Of course, Mom. We're way too awesome to bite it on some lame C-rank mission." Sasuke replied, "We're not going to die. Please let go of me." While he secretly thought, "This is embarrassingly nice." Kushina picked up a bag and left with Anko across the rooftops. Naruto waved while Sasuke plopped down on the couch. He interrupted Naruto's farewell saying, "It's your turn to make lunch, stamina freak." Naruto turned and shouted with a giant smile, "Ramen, it is then." 3 days later, on the road to Sand. "Kakashi-sensei, are you sure that there isn't something I could be practicing along the way? How about body flicker? Please." Naruto whined. "If I don't find something for him to work on, he's going to be like this for the whole trip. And if I do give him something, then he won't be paying attention to the clients. So was I like this at his age?" Kakashi thought to himself while trying his best to ignore Naruto. "Sasuke," Kakashi called quietly over the radio. "Yes," the serious genin replied. "Do you see anything?" "Negative contact," came Sasuke's voice over the radio. Kakashi turned to Naruto and asked, "How is your chakra control coming?" "I can keep a leaf stuck to my forehead while transitioning from water walking to wall walking or tree climbing. I stopped practicing after running with it for 15 minutes. Sasuke timed me," Naruto replied much calmer. "We're on a mission, so limit yourself to 4 shadow clones and don't wear yourself out. If I tell you to stop, don't ask questions. Got it?" "Hey, what are you doing? We didn't hire you to take a bunch of kids on a road trip, damn it!" screamed the convoy's lead driver. "Having extra eyes will be very useful, sir, so just let us do our job and everything will be fine," Kakashi smiled. "Okay, Naruto. Body flicker should be easy to learn." Kakashi started with the mic open for Sasuke and Sakura to hear. "All you have to do is mold chakra into your whole body. It temporarily energizes you and allows you to move at much higher speeds. The boost is only temporary though and the whole technique depends on how much chakra you put into it." Kakashi showed Naruto by moving from the ground to a nearby tree in less than the blink of an eye. "Like that. The better you are at it, the faster you'll move. Now practice, but leave at least one set of eyes to watch for danger," he said as he jumped back down. Naruto created 4 shadow clones and set them to practice while he diligently kept an eye out. 2 days later, near the border of Sand. "Kakashi-sensei, possible contact left," Sasuke radioed from ahead of the convoy. His Sharingan was already active in preparation for battle. Wind gusted past to him as Naruto body flickered next to him. Naruto discovered that body flicker was a good technique for closing distance, but he could only move in a straight line. In order to take a corner, he would have to move at his fastest speeds or body flicker, pause, then body flicker again. Molding the chakra for the technique took him a split second as well, so he didn't like the idea of using it against a serious opponent. But to move a few hundred yards in the blink of an eye, it was perfect. "That's a handy trick, stamina freak," Sasuke whispered. "You should talk, red eyes. What have we got?" Naruto whispered in response. "I can't tell without getting closer. Send a shadow clone over there," he pointed, "to check it out." Naruto nodded and created a shadow clone which promptly body flickered in the direction Sasuke pointed. After a minute, Naruto frowned. He clicked his radio on and asked, "Kakashi-sensei, are we in Wind Country yet?" "Not yet. Did you spot Sand Nin?" Kakashi replied. "I don't think so. It's a nin from the Mist Village. She looked a little malnourished, but killed my clone with a lava ball," Naruto answered. Kakashi winced. "Halt the convoy," he said to the convoy leader. "Sakura, guard them. Radio if you get into any trouble." Sasuke, Naruto, joined Sakura. "And make a clone to come with me." Naruto body flickered next to Kakashi and created a clone. Sasuke, not to be outdone, body flickered next to Naruto. "I don't know what's going on, but this could get dangerous. If she kills me, take a longer route around to complete the mission then return to the village immediately," Kakashi told the genin trio. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto went to where Naruto's last clone had died, but found only a cooling ball of lava. "Come to finish the job," wheezed a slender woman covered in dirt from behind them. "You'll find I'm not so easy to kill. Lava style, lava glob." A ball of lava shot out, but Kakashi grabbed Naruto and dodged as it passed close enough to feel the heat while Sasuke evaded using body flicker to a nearby tree. "We're not here to kill anyone," Naruto shouted, but Kakashi pulled his headband up to expose the 3-Tomo Sharingan in his left eye. "Naruto, she's not interested in talking," Kakashi shouted, readying himself for battle. "Kakashi the copy ninja, huh? Well, try copying this," she shouted, stumbling on her feet. "Boil style, corrosive mist." A tiny jet of mist came out of her mouth, but she started coughing before much more than a few squirts came out. She stumbled forward into the aborted jutsu and Naruto body flickered behind the woman, wrapping his arms around her neck and his legs around her waist. "I've got her," he shouted, holding on for dear life. She spun around and smashed backward into a tree, dispelling the shadow clone. "What the," was all that she managed to say as Kakashi struck her from behind, knocking tired woman out. "Sakura, tell the convoy to prepare a tent," Kakashi radioed. "Inside the large tent. But we're not Hunter Nin. She's from another village and she looks like she's lost. We should just give her directions home and be on our way," Naruto argued. Kakashi frowned behind his mask. "She might have comrades nearby, Naruto. We don't know why she's here. We can't just let her go. On the other hand, we aren't at war with the village hidden in the mist, so we could just let her go and file a report on the incident. Still, I'd like to hear her explanation before I decide. And it looks like she might be out for a while." The woman rolled over and started pushing herself up. Naruto ran over with Sakura and said with a smile, "Hello. You're awake already. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Who are you? Didn't I kill you, Naruto Uzumaki? Am I dead?" The woman grumbled. "Not dead. Just in a very precarious state. I can tell that you are an extremely dangerous kunoichi, but as exhausted as you are right now, I don't think you should strain yourself," Kakashi said, smiling. "What are you Leaf Ninja doing here?" she asked. "This is Fire Country. Why wouldn't we be here?" Naruto commented. "Where do you think you are?" Kakashi asked. "Are you the interrogation team then?" she asked with icy resolve. "We do things differently than the Bloody Mist. We just happen to be in the area. I haven't decided if we should take you in yet," Kakashi explained. "You can't hold me, copy Kakashi," she said with a deadly tone. Kakashi smiled, "Probably not." Naruto added with a smile of his own, "But we can't help you if you don't tell us anything." The woman looked like she was thinking about it for a while. "I was returning from a mission when I got caught in a sandstorm. I don't know how long ago," she finally explained with a scowl. Naruto pulled a map out of one of his pouches and the woman flinched before she saw that it was only a map. He unfolded it in front of her and pointed to where they were on it. "This is where we are." He pulled out some rations and water. "Here's some food and water. Rest for a little while and then make your way home." He smiled again and waved as the 4-leaf ninja left her alone in the tent. "I don't really have much choice, do I?" she thought as she passed out. The convoy continued on to the desert where Kakashi passed the convoy off to a team from the village hidden in the sand. They checked the tent on the way back, but it was empty. Chapter 6. Ibiki says that we can't use the Forest of Death this year for the exams, Enko whined. She lounged on Kushina's couch with a large alcoholic beverage in one hand. Kushina was in the kitchen, pulling out her makeshift grill. "Well, what's the problem?" Kushina asked as she started setting the grill up. "He told me that I had to devise another challenge that would eliminate at least half of the teams taking the exams. Like it's my fault we can't use the forest." Enko took another sip. Kushina assembled the last part of the grate before responding, "Orochimaru could have been spying on you through that cursed heaven thing for the last 10 years. We found the security hole and plugged it, but now we have to change things up. Every project you've worked on in the last 10 years has to change because we have to assume that Orochimaru knows all about it. That happened to all of the ongoing projects and missions as soon as I got that thing analyzed, but the Chunin exams only come around to Konohagakure every 5th exam. That's every 2.5 years. You've proctored the Forest of Death twice already, so they're changing it. It's not like the Forest of Death hasn't been around since the founding of the village. I don't know why he decided to me over language," Kushina yelled. "My kids are going to be home soon and if you want to stay for dinner, you'll have to set a better example." "One little missing nin who already knew about it," Enko griped quietly. Can't argue with free barbecue. And that, one little missing nin, is the snake Sanin. I wonder why they're paranoid, Kushina frowned. Training Ground 11, Sunset. Naruto. Stop, please. Sakura panted, struggling to catch her breath. I'm dying here. Sasuke and Naruto were still fighting a dozen yards from where the pink-haired girl was huffing and puffing at a shadow clone. You always say that, Sakura, Naruto admonished. Would you rather spar against Sasuke? Sakura winced. She remembered the bruises she'd had for days after the last time she'd sparred with Sasuke. No, but all of this training is killing me, she huffed. I can't keep up this pace. Sakura's hair was tied up in a bun and sweat dripped off her chin. Naruto's orange jumpsuit was barely dirty and the clone looked like it had barely broken a sweat. Tomorrow we'll work on ninjutsu then. I wish Kakashi would train us more though. It'd be nice if he showed us one of those thousands of jutsus he knows, Naruto complained. It's not like we don't have time to learn those advanced things, Naruto. Kakashi is teaching us the basics, Sakura defended. If you say so. How's your chakra level coming? Naruto deflected. It's better, I think. I don't know. You and Sasuke are the only comparisons I have. I'm nowhere near you, but my control is still better than you, she explained. I think I've got about a quarter of Sasuke's chakra level, but I can't tell for sure. Take a couple of minutes and then we'll do some body flicker practice, Naruto instructed. He and Sasuke were already pretty ragged with their sparring practice, but Sakura didn't need to know that. Sasuke used his Sharingan to react faster than Naruto, but constant practice was increasing Naruto's speed to the point where Sasuke was almost having trouble staying ahead. Naruto was getting fast, but he still didn't know much more than basic ninjutsu. He didn't know any elemental attacks. He didn't know any genjutsu except how to break them. He knew a lot of taijutsu. He practiced until his taijutsu was nearly flawless, but he still didn't know anything advanced. The only other jutsu that Naruto knew was the summoning jutsu, and Jiraiya still hadn't gotten around to letting him sign the contract that allowed him to summon frogs. Naruto held up a hand and said, I've been running Sakura ragged. I think we need to practice ninjutsu more anyway, but I don't know many jutsus. We'd just be practicing the basics. Sasuke stopped and said, yeah, we should start bugging Kakashi to teach us more. The two broke up their spar and walked over to Sakura, who was still catching her breath. Naruto's insistence on training her had started to pay off, but it was hard work, which was something she was unaccustomed to doing. She'd always been smart enough that she hadn't had to work very hard at the academy, but Sasuke and Naruto were so far ahead of her that not training would have been nearly suicidal. Kakashi showed up while the three were drinking water. Taking a break from training. This generation is so lazy, Kakashi smiled behind his mask. Are you insane? Sakura screamed. I haven't been able to feel my arms or legs. Naruto and Sasuke are brutal slave drivers. If we trained any more, I would keel over and die. Kakashi only smiled harder. Their work ethic is just like Guy, he thought. This should be entertaining. Perhaps one day you'll see the merit in hard work, Sakura-chan. But, for now, I wanted to ask you all a serious question. Our village, Konohagakure, will host the next Chunin exams and I wondered what each of you thought about entering. We've only been genin for a few months. Are we ready? Sakura thought. It would be a great chance to test my skill and learn from other shinobi. Yes, Sasuke thought. Hell yeah, we just need to learn a couple of things and I think we'll kick and take names. Naruto shouted excitedly. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Naruto. They were accustomed to his outbursts, but this one seemed even more energetic than normal. That is certainly definitive, Naruto. How about you two? Kakashi asked the tired genin. I don't see why we shouldn't enter the exams. It's not like it's a one-time only test, right? Sasuke asked. Kakashi shook his head. Is it going to mean more training, Naruto? Sakura asked, pleading with her eyes that the answer would be, no. Naruto thought for a moment, reviewing what he knew of human anatomy. He finally responded, we should definitely rest up in the days before the exam, but we can't slack off on training just because we might get promoted. A few days of rest is all I ask. I constantly feel like I got buried under a building, Sakura thought, but said, okay then. Let's do it. Kakashi smiled again. Great. I'll get the forms. No more missions for the next 2 weeks. Sakura was just getting excited about finally having free time, but Naruto interrupted her fantasy. Yes. More time to practice and train. Sakura shot up and screamed, no. As she ran home. Naruto's house, 2 days before the exams. Sakura-chan, I'm so glad that you could come over. I hope the boys haven't been pushing you too hard with their training, Kushina gushed. They can be pretty intense. Understatement of the decade, lady, Sakura thought. They just want to make sure that the whole team is strong, Kushina-san, she responded demurely. Kakashi was wearing his standard blue clothes with his green jacket over it. His mask came up to cover his mouth and nose, as usual, and his headband drooped to cover his left eye. He was sitting on the couch next to a woman Sakura hadn't met. The woman had black hair with blue highlights and wore a jacket over her tight mesh armor. Kushina had her hair tied up and into a high bun with chopsticks pinning it into place and wore an apron over civilian clothes. Naruto wore the orange jumpsuit that he had worn since before it fit right, still proudly displaying his forehead protector. Sasuke wore his standard outfit. White shorts with a blue shirt emblazoned with the Uchiha crest on the back. Sakura wasn't sure if she should have worn her standard gear or the civilian clothes she'd decided to wear instead. Naruto noticed her and ran over, excitedly. Sakura was a little surprised that he didn't body flicker, but she figured he didn't want to use jutsu at home. She never used jutsu at home. Then it struck her. There were pictures that had genjutsu on them. There weren't many pictures in the 2-bedroom apartment, but all of the ones on display had genjutsu on them. Before Sakura could think any further, however, Naruto grabbed her arm and pulled her over to the couch. Kakashi-sensei. Enko-san. Sakura-chan is here, he exclaimed excitedly. Hey there, Pinky, Enko blurted with a drunken smile. Nice to meet ya. Glad you could make it, Sakura-chan, Kakashi smiled. He had a drink that was only half full, but his mask was still on. Come to think of it, I've never actually seen Kakashi's face, Sakura couldn't help thinking. Enko-san was just telling us about when she took the Chunin exams, Naruto said with a serious tone. She said that we were lucky that this year wouldn't be like back then. Oh, that's nice, Sakura responded. Enko laughed evilly. This year, we completely redesigned the middle stage. You guys'll never pass. Naruto laughed a good-natured laugh. You think some test is going to stop me? I'll be Hokage one day. Even better than Yondaime. I knew he wanted to be Hokage, but better than the Yellow Flash. He must be on drugs, Sakura thought. Oh, ho. The legendary pink troublemaker has arrived. Boomed an older man's voice. Sakura turned to see a drunken Jiraiya looking down at her. That is certainly exotic, Naruto. I can see why you'd be into her. Don't be such a pedophile, Ero-sensei. Naruto shouted. I'm not. I'm just saying if I was 12, I'd be into her too. I'm saying you have good taste, boy. Jiraiya argued with Naruto. Sakura was suddenly and intensely uncomfortable. She snuck back away from the two boisterous arguers, seeking safe haven. Her choices were Kushina and the Hokage or Sasuke. She chose Sasuke. Hi, Sasuke, she smiled. This is quite the get-together, isn't it? He grunted. Yeah. A real gathering of legends. And none of them want to teach anything, he frowned. Sakura sat silently, unsure of how to respond. She was very uncomfortable with just about everyone in the room. She quietly looked around, hoping to find someone who would be better company than Sasuke, who was in one of his moods, apparently. She remembered the genjutsu as she looked around and decided, finally, to break it. She looked at one of the pictures. Then over at Naruto, who was still arguing with Jiraiya-sama. Then back at the pictures. Then to Jiraiya and Naruto. Then back to the pictures. No way, she whispered, her face draining of all color. No, she whispered as she slowly stood. This is completely unfair, she shook. Why didn't anyone tell me? Sakura started to scream, but Sasuke clamped his hand over her mouth before she could finish. Training Ground 17, the night before the exams. Naruto had 50 shadow clones practicing the basic jutsu and control exercises that he knew in various combinations. Some practiced body flicker while keeping a leaf on their foreheads. Some practiced tree climbing then water walking and back. Some practiced replacement while under a henge transformation. Some threw kunai at targets while others tried to block and interfere. He wasn't happy with just practicing basic techniques, but he was sure that he could convince someone he knew to teach him more eventually. And Jiraiya had drilled him with the idea that, learning the basics creates a foundation for learning more complex ideas, during his initial academy days. After practicing all day, Naruto was getting tired. His clones started dispelling and he could feel that he was running low on chakra. Just a little more, he thought as he tried to draw more chakra. Just what are you trying to do? A strange, deep voice boomed from everywhere. Who's there? Naruto asked as the world started to fade. But instead of the normal black that accompanied unconsciousness, he found himself underground, in front of a massive gate with a shallow, endless puddle of water underfoot. You don't have any chakra left and I didn't say that you could have any of mine, boy, the same voice rumbled from the darkness beyond the gate. Who are you? Naruto asked, approaching the gate cautiously. A wave of hate washed out from behind the bars of the gate, but Naruto just stood there, letting it wash past him. He could feel the chakra in it and that it had filled him with as much chakra as he had first thing in the morning. We're inside of me, aren't we? Who are you? What is this? Naruto asked again. Break the seal and let me out. The voice rumbled. Naruto looked up and saw a paper seal over the lock that kept the gate closed. The seal looked oddly familiar, but he couldn't place it. He hesitated for a few long seconds before a giant, angry, red fox head snapped at the gate. Let me out. Naruto jumped in surprise. Not if you're going to snap at me. And you won't even tell me your name. I'm outta here. The world came back into focus, but it was tinged in red. Naruto started practicing again and found that he was much faster and stronger than normal. It was almost like when he used body flicker, except he wasn't just faster and it wasn't just in the instant like body flicker. I have to remember to look into this after the exams, he thought as he practiced. The Chunin exams, second floor. Get out of here, scum, a voice said coldly. You'll never pass anyway, so just go home. The sign above the door read, 302, and two boys were blocking the door. Sakura had seen through a much better genjutsu just a few days before, so she easily saw through it. Sasuke just watched as a boy in green spandex got up said, I am sorry, but I must go into the test room. I am aware that we are not permitted to fight outside of the exam, but if you do not allow me inside, I will have to force my way through. Naruto looked at his teammates and said, should we help him? I thought that this was a team thing. Where's his team? A boy with long, dark hair and strange lavender eyes tapped the green spandex boy on the shoulder. Lee, come on. There are other ways in. Let's go. Lee looked like he was about to explode, but said, of course, Neji. Let us go through another entrance. Come on, guys, Naruto said calmly as the three went up to the third floor, where the exam would take place. The room was filled with many genin teams. There were headbands from the 5 major villages and several minor villages. Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino were there already. They were talking to another team that had graduated with their class. The first was a scruffy-looking boy with a puppy on his head. The second was the very shy Hinata, whose eyes were the same as that boy from downstairs, now that Naruto had a chance to take a good look at her. The third was another quiet one that Naruto didn't immediately recognize. You're here too. How troublesome, Shikamaru commented as Team 7 approached. Is this our entire genin class? Naruto asked with a smile. Man, we're all doing great if we're all up for Chunin so soon, right? How did you make it, dead last? The boy with the dog sneered. You barely passed the genin exams. Sasuke must be carrying you. Ino had already snuggled right up to Sasuke. Sakura just felt ashamed for her friend. She was sizing up the other genin. Most were at least a year older than their class. Naruto laughed. Yeah, Sasuke is carrying us. Shikamaru just repeated, how troublesome. An older boy with grayish hair and purple clothes came over to the genin group. Hello there. I see that you're new. Would you like some help? I have these neat data cards that I've compiled over the years to help me strategize. My name is Kabuto, by the way. Sure, said the boy with the dog. Who've you got info on? Naruto asked, skeptically. Let's see our cards first. The purple boy pulled out 9 cards and charged them with a minuscule amount of chakra, which caused the underlying images to become visible. That's a neat trick, Naruto commented, taking his card. It read, Uzumaki, Naruto. Chakra control. 1.5 10 asterisk. Chakra level, 9/10 asterisk. Academics, 1/10 asterisk. D rank missions, 87/87 asterisk. C rank missions, 14/14 asterisk. Known ninjutsu, shadow clones, replacement, clones, transformation, sexy technique. Known genjutsu, none. Known taijutsu, basic, self-taught. Other known jutsu, none. Elemental affinity, unknown. Kekkei Genkei, unknown, probably none. Naruto chuckled. I wouldn't put too much stock in his information, guys. He's pretty far off the mark. Naruto tried to channel just a tiny amount of chakra into the card, trying to do what Kabuto had done, but instead of going blank, the card flared up like a flashbulb and burnt out. Damn it, I should have known you'd fry it. Kabuto lamented. It even hinted at it on the card. Since you've got it memorized anyway, I guess it wasn't that big of a deal, Naruto said, secretly guilty that he'd burned out the card. He handed back the blackened square anyway. Sorry that I burnt it though. Take your seats, boomed a tall, scarred man wearing a black leather coat at the head of the room. Everyone scurried into seats. They took the nearest available seats, since nobody knew if there were any assigned seats. The man didn't seem to care. Welcome to the first part of the Chunin exam. This is the written exam. You will have 50 minutes to complete the first 9 questions. I will then give you the 10th question and you will have 10 minutes remaining. Anyone caught cheating will be dismissed, along with the rest of their team. He set a clock with a timer in front of the class and hit the start button saying, begin. Naruto didn't have a problem with the first 9 questions. He knocked it out in about 20 minutes, deciding to take a nap until the 10th question. Choice, the same voice woke Naruto. You can take the 10th question, but if you fail, you will never be able to take the exam again. This is it. If you decide to back out, you can take the exam again later, but your whole team will leave with you. Will you continue? Make your decisions. Naruto looked around the room and noticed a few teams backing out, mostly from other nations. The clock continued ticking, but it didn't look like anyone else was backing out. Naruto was surprised that the shy girl stuck it out. She didn't seem that self-confident, but he mentally cheered, that's right. Don't let anyone intimidate you. He slammed his hand down with a loud thud and yelled, hurry up, already. No one else is leaving, so give us the question. Get on with it. You didn't notice. The large man asked coldly. I already asked the 10th question. Sudden realization dawned on Naruto. The man had asked, will you continue? And that was the only question that mattered in the written exam. The timer still ticked down, but nobody else left. There were still 16 teams in the massive room and, as if on cue, when the timer went off, Enko appeared in the window. Are you losing your touch, Ibiki? There's so many, she commented. Just a solid group this year, Enko. Now take them to the next part of the exam, the scarred man said. Well, we'll cut this group in half, at least, before the finals, Enko replied casually. Follow me. She led the remaining teams into the heart of the village, where there was a table set up with 2 bins of scrolls and a group of proctors. There were more proctors than teams. Listen up, kids. Normally, we'd do something dangerous and deadly that would eliminate a bunch of you, but you all got lucky this year because we're doing a wholly new elimination contest. Each team is going to sign up over here, she pointed to some proctors, and then a proctor will remove 1 scroll from one of these 2 bins. The proctor will then go into the merchant district, where many of you have been staying, and hide the scroll somewhere. There are 2 different scrolls. One is a white, heaven, scroll while the other is a brown, earth, scroll. In order to pass, your entire team must bring 1 of each type, 2 scrolls, back here by sunrise tomorrow. The catch is that there will be proctors roaming the merchant district and if they catch you, you must give up 1 scroll. You may not kill. You may not injure civilians. You may not cause property damage or steal anything but the scrolls. Anyone who breaks those rules will be sanctioned. Don't break a treaty just to make Chunin, kiddies. Suck it, Ibiki. This is even better than the Forest of Death. Now the best infiltrators will fight each other and not the best survivalists, Enko thought. There will be a 10-minute delay once a proctor takes the last scroll before you may begin. Anyone not familiar with the merchant district, we have maps with the border streets marked here. Now sign up and get moving. Time's wasting. Having home field advantage was huge for the genin of Team 7. Naruto knew all of the best hiding places throughout the village as well, so they never got nabbed by proctors. Shikamaru's team and a team from Mist managed to beat them to the return station, but third of 8 wasn't bad. A team from Sand came in a few minutes behind Team 7, but Team 7 was already half asleep when that team came in. Chapter 7. Normally, we would have simply given you all a month to prepare for the finals. But this year seems to have an abnormal number of passing teams, so we're going to have some preliminary matches, the Hokage announced. 8 teams remained after the infiltration test. All of them gathered in a closed arena with their Jonin senseis to hear about the next phase of the exam. Naruto noted the other teams and the Jonin on catwalks. Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, Shino, Kiba with his dog, Lee, Neji, and a dark-haired girl who Naruto didn't know were all of the Leaf Ninja who had made it. He saw Kakashi on the catwalk with a Jonin wearing green spandex who looked just like Lee, but older. Among the Leaf Jonin, there was a woman with long, dark hair and red eyes next to a tall man with short, spiky black hair and a beard. There was a team from Sand, Clouds, Rocks, and Mist each. The Mist Jonin was a tall woman with long, auburn hair and green eyes. Naruto recognized her from his first C-rank mission. He hadn't had much contact with any of the genin, but he knew that ninja would be tricky no matter what and wasn't overconfident. At random, so make your way to the catwalks with your Jonin sensei, the Hokage finished. Crap, I wasn't paying attention to what the old man was saying. Here's hoping I'm not first up, Naruto thought. The entire group of genin proceeded up the catwalks while a proctor waited in the middle of the arena. Everyone was looking up at a giant board expectantly. 2 names came up, Choji Akamichi and not Naruto. Choji hopped into the arena along with one of the ninja with a rock symbol on his forehead protector. The proctor called, "Fight!" and Choji took up a defensive stance. The rock nin pulled out a kunai and threw it, but Choji dodged. When Choji dodged, the other ninja made hand signs and a wall of earth came up in front and behind Choji. The other ninja made more signs and the walls smashed into each other, but Choji broke the walls by expanding his body. Choji turned into an oversized bowling ball and rolled around, chasing the ninja from rock, until the rock ninja made more hand signs and trapped Choji in a giant earthen box. After a few minutes of slamming noises from the inside of the box, the proctor called the match for the rock ninja. The giant board changed and 2 more names came up. Naruto didn't recognize either, but a ninja from Mist with a sword and a ninja from Cloud with a sword hopped down into the arena. That battle was short, because the Cloud nin charged his sword with lightning and cut the Mist nin's sword in half and then stabbed the Mist nin through the arm, pinning the Mist nin to the wall while his other hand held a kunai at the Mist nin's throat. The proctor called the match for the Cloud nin. The giant board changed again, reading, Naruto Uzumaki, and, Kankuro of the Desert. Naruto hopped down as did the Sand Ninja dressed in black with strange face paint. Kankuro had a bundle on his back that Naruto wondered about, but he got into a fighting stance. The proctor called, "Fight!" and Naruto body flickered at the same time creating 4 shadow clones. He hit Kankuro, knocking the Sand Genin back, but Kankuro's head opened up, revealing a nozzle that hissed at Naruto. Naruto replaced himself with a shadow clone that dispersed as it inhaled poison gas and 3 others' body flickered around the puppet. One hit the puppet with a low sweep kick, the second simultaneously hit it with a roundhouse kick to the torso, and a split second later the third dropped an axe kick, breaking the strange puppet into pieces with an explosion and a crack in the ground beneath it. The cloud of puppet pieces dispelled the 3 clones. As the shadow clones were dismantling the puppet, Naruto body flickered to the Sand Ninja who was controlling the puppet and kicked him with a roundhouse kick hard enough to make a wet crunch sound and send the Sand Ninja flying hard to the ground. Some of the Jonin were making conversation, but the conversations ended when Naruto destroyed the puppet and crunched the puppeteer at the same time. The proctor called the match when it was obvious that Kankuro had a broken arm and several broken ribs. "Sorry I kicked you so hard," Naruto said to the injured Kankuro who had a terrified look plastered on his face. "I thought you were another puppet," Naruto tried to explain, but the medics carted the Sand Nin off out of the arena. Naruto returned to the catwalk where the Jonin in green spandex approached him. "The flames of your youth burn bright, Naruto," the man exclaimed. "Ah, yeah, right. Who are you again?" Naruto asked, confused. "I am Might Guy, Kakashi's eternal rival," Guy exclaimed. Your taijutsu is nearly as good as my beautiful student, Lee. Yeah, except he flawlessly mixed basic ninjutsu into his taijutsu, thought the bearded Jonin. His taijutsu is close to Jonin level and the skill of the ninjutsu that he employed is nearly the same. But the council will have a hard time approving the kid for promotion. I'm glad none of my students had to fight him. Just watch, sensei. I will prove that someone can be a ninja even without ninjutsu and genjutsu. Exclaimed the miniature version of the green spandex Jonin. The board flickered, quickly diverting Naruto's attention from the weird pair, showing Hinata Hyuga and Temari of the desert. The shyest girl from their class jumped down along with the blonde girl with a giant fan from the sand. Do your best, Hinata. Naruto cheered. The girl had obvious self-confidence problems and Naruto didn't see anyone else jumping into her corner, but no sooner had he cheered, Kiba yelled out. Come on Hinata. You can beat her. The proctor yelled, fight. And Hinata took up a strange taijutsu stance. Naruto looked at the rest of the genin from his class. Only Naruto and Kiba were cheering. Come on, guys. Show your support for your comrade. Go Hinata. You can do it, he shouted. Shikamaru, Ino, Lee, and Shino joined Kiba and Naruto in cheering for Hinata. Temari was staying away from Hinata and Hinata had activated her Byakugan. Temari used her massive fan to unleash a wind ninjutsu, but Hinata rapidly spun around, creating a dome of chakra that diverted the jutsu. They're all cheering for me. I can't let them down. Hinata thought as she ran forward, attempting to strike the elusive sand nin, but Temari was faster, keeping Hinata at bay. Hinata pulled several kunai out and threw them at Temari, hoping that it would force the sand nin into a close combat battle, but the kunai merely missed. Hinata could see the wind that Temari had used to divert the kunai and knew that the battle would come down to which one of them had more stamina. After many long minutes of battle, Hinata ran out of chakra diverting one of Temari's wind jutsu and the match ended when she collapsed from exhaustion and the wind jutsu tossed her across the arena, but it was longer than many on the catwalks thought it would be, especially Neji and Gaara. Kakashi turned to the woman with red eyes and said, You look surprised, Kurenai. She's never fought so hard as all, Kurenai mumbled. I wonder what it was that finally motivated her. I wonder, Kakashi smiled behind his mask while reading his romance novel. Naruto turned to the arena where Sakura and a girl with 2 buns in her brown hair were about to start. Naruto noted that the other name on the board was Tenten. Come on, Sakura. You can do it, he cheered. Both kunoichi took taijutsu stances. Tenten started by throwing several kunai and throwing stars at Sakura, but Sakura dodged with a body flicker and engaged Tenten up close. Tenten pulled out a kunai, slashing at Sakura, but Sakura back-flipped away, drawing a kunai of her own. Sakura quickly pressed back in, kunai in hand, but the two were near even at taijutsu. This only worked on Naruto the first time, but maybe I'll get lucky and Tenten hasn't trained against genjutsu like we have, Sakura thought. Sakura took the initiative and quickly made the hand signs for the one genjutsu she had learned from Kakashi, putting Tenten into the hell viewing jutsu. Using her opponent's momentary paralysis, Sakura rapidly struck Tenten from behind, knocking Tenten out. Well, my eternal rival, Guy started, it seems that your student has surpassed mine. I will ensure that my student trains even harder from now on. The board flickered, reading Neji Hyuga and one of the Cloud Kunoichi. Both jumped into the arena, ready for battle. Fate has decreed that I will win. There is no shame in surrender, Neji droned at the Cloud Kunoichi before the proctor even started the match. Shut up and fight, you fatalistic freak, the Cloud Kunoichi spat back. Fight, shouted the proctor. Neji activated his Byakugan and the Kunoichi started with hand signs. Neji paused for a moment before blinking once and moving toward the Kunoichi. She simply started a new set of hand signs, which ultimately did nothing to stop Neji's advance. Using genjutsu against the Byakugan. Bad idea, sweetie, Kurenai thought. That's almost as useless as using genjutsu against the Sharingan. Neji closed and began striking softly. The Kunoichi from Clouds thought she was blocking his strikes, but Neji began ticking off numbers. 2, he started. 4, he said a moment later. 8, he rapidly progressed. 16, he mumbled as his strikes gained even more speed. 32, he said as the Kunoichi noticed that she wasn't able to block anymore. 64, he said as the kunoichi felt exhausted. 8 trigrams 64 palms, Neji breathed. He could see that the girl's entire chakra network was shut down. You cannot continue. Fate has spoken, Neji intoned as he walked back to the catwalk. The girl managed to stand up and trip herself, falling unconscious to the ground. The proctor called the match. The board flickered, showing Kiba Inuzuka and one of the mist ninja. Naruto was stunned at Neji's cold demeanor, while Lee said with as much determination as Naruto had ever heard, "That is my main competition. I will defeat him." The proctor yelled, "Fight!" And the mist nin unleashed a white fog that covered the entire battlefield. Kiba yelled in animalistic fury and a twister erupted from the mist to strike down again. The mist nin had a sword out which had blocked Kiba's attack, but his sword was now cracked. "How did you find me?" the mist nin asked. "PFF'd. There's more than one sense," Kiba scoffed. "I see," the mist nin muttered, already making hand signs. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. A giant water dragon erupted from the dissipating mist, but Kiba responded with his own attack. Garoga. Kiba and Akamaru were identical, but they spun together, creating the vortex to strike directly at the water jutsu. The mist nin ended the water jutsu, but threw a storm of kunai and shuriken, forcing Kiba and Akamaru to dodge backward while he made several hand signs. Water style. Rotting mist. The mist nin summoned a fog bank of acrid yellow, but this time Kiba and Akamaru screamed as soon as they smelled it. Kiba yelled out that he resigned the match before the mist nin had a chance to attack. The board flickered again, showing Sasuke Uchiha and Rock Lee. Lee jumped down to the arena, taking up a taijutsu stance. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and took up a defensive stance. The proctor yelled, "Fight!" and Lee swiftly moved in to engage Sasuke. Lee wasn't as fast as a body flicker and Sasuke was accustomed to fighting 3 or 4 body flickering Narutos simultaneously, so he was able to keep up with Lee, but only just. Lee struck with a more refined leg sweep than Naruto, spinning up into an axe kick that dropped onto Sasuke's block. Sasuke rolled with the kick and tumbled to the side. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. A ball of fire blasted out of Sasuke's mouth, forcing Lee to retreat. Sasuke followed it up with half a dozen kunai thrown at several spots around Lee, hoping that at least one would find a home. Lee dodged them all and ran in to engage again. Sasuke whipped down into the same sweep kick that Lee had previously used against him, but Lee picked up both legs and launched like a missile at Sasuke, striking him in the chest with both feet. Sasuke rolled again, throwing Lee off. Sasuke body flickered behind Lee, trying to grab the taijutsu expert. Lee felt Sasuke behind him and whispered, "Gate of opening," as the first of his 8 gates opened and he evaded Sasuke's grasp. "How many gates can Lee open?" Kakashi asked Guy. 5, Guy smiled and then he yelled, "Remove your training weights, my precious student." Both combatants looked up at the catwalk, but Lee replied, "But sensei." "Don't argue. Just do it, Lee." Guy screamed. "I'll wait," Sasuke said. Lee took off the heavy weights that had been around his ankles, which fell to the ground with a loud clang. "Can we continue?" Sasuke asked. Lee nodded, moving almost as fast as a body flicker. Sasuke continued blocking, still accustomed to 3 or 4 simultaneous attacks. Compared to Lee's rapid succession of attacks, he could still keep up a good defense, but a single target was much more difficult to hit than 3 or 4 targets. Lee partially unraveled the bandages on his hands and forearms, continuing his assault on Sasuke. Sasuke dropped his defense to see what Lee would do and Lee wrapped him in his hanging bandages. As Lee began his spin, Sasuke used a shadow clone as a replacement and watched the technique from 2 angles. His shadow clone dispersed, leaving Lee triumphant, until Lee realized that it had been a shadow clone. Sasuke engaged Lee again, this time using Lee's own moves against him. Lee had long practiced with Guy using the same techniques, so he simply whispered, "Gate of healing," and fought harder. Sasuke, having seen how to open the first gate from Lee, replied, "Gate of opening," and increased his speed to keep up with Lee. "How many gates can Sasuke open?" Guy asked Kakashi. "I have no idea. I never taught him the technique," Kakashi replied. "Without physical training, it is impossible to learn to open the gates," Guy retorted. "Sasuke trains with Naruto every day," Kakashi countered. Guy grumbled as he watched his student's skin turn red and muttered, "Gate of life." Sasuke kept up with Lee only due to his intense training with Naruto and the benefit of his Sharingan. He had no illusions that he would be able to keep up without either of those advantages. Fire Style. Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. Sasuke unleashed a swarm of fireballs at Lee as he tossed shuriken at the speeding, green taijutsu freak. Lee batted the fireballs, seeming to ignore them as he flew toward Sasuke. Maybe if I open that second gate. Shit, he's starting to move faster than I can, Sasuke thought as he opened the second gate. The two furiously fought for long seconds before Sasuke had a realization. Damn it, this is stupid. He admitted that he can't use genjutsu or ninjutsu. He's only used taijutsu so far, so he probably can't defend against it. Sasuke locked eyes with the furious Lee before disengaging and watching Lee fight harder and harder against an illusory enemy. Lee opened the fourth gate, but Guy stepped in realizing that Lee was trapped in Sasuke's simple genjutsu. The proctor called the match as soon as Guy intervened. The board flashed, showing Shino Aburame and the last Mist Ninja. The two met in the arena and the proctor yelled, "Fight!" The Mist Nin started making hand signs, but a swarm of insects surrounded the poor girl. Shino remained calm in the middle of the massive insect swarm. "You'll find that I'm not susceptible to genjutsu," Shino commented as the girl tried two different genjutsu on him. "No, I can't lose," she screamed as the insects drained her chakra. "It's unfortunate that you were paired with me then, because you will lose," Shino stated as the girl started to waver. She threw a kunai that Shino easily avoided. The proctor called the match as the girl collapsed from exhaustion moments later. "How boring," the Mist Jonin commented. The board flickered again, revealing Ino Yamanaka and the last kunoichi from Cloud. She hopped down into the arena and the two stared at each other before the proctor yelled, "Fight!" Ino left strands of her hair as traps all over the arena while the other kunoichi charged her body with lightning chakra. Ino backed herself against a wall as the Cloud kunoichi tried to run through her hair traps, but it gave Ino enough time to aim her mind-body switch jutsu. Ino's body collapsed as she inhabited the Cloud kunoichi. As the Cloud kunoichi, she said, "I quit." The proctor said, "Okay. Since Ino Yamanaka is unconscious and you quit, both of you lose the match." Ino released the jutsu and stood up in her own body screaming about it being unfair. After several minutes of heated dispute, she decided against revealing her clan's signature intelligence gathering technique and took the loss. The board flickered to reveal Shikamaru Nara and the kunoichi from Rock. He strolled down to the arena floor and started to say, "I quit," but before he got it out, Ino yelled, "If you quit, I'll tell your mother." "How troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. "Let's get this over with." "Fight!" the proctor yelled. Shikamaru threw out several kunai, some of which had exploding tags to distract the kunoichi. She dodged and started making hand signs, but Shikamaru said, "Shadow Possession Jutsu, complete," and the kunoichi found she was frozen in place. Shikamaru walked backward and she walked backward until she bumped into the arena wall. Shikamaru said, "Sorry about this, but this was the fastest way to get this over with," as he bent forward and so did she. He whipped his head backwards into empty space, but the kunoichi knocked herself out on the wall. The proctor called the match. The board flickered again and the last two names came up. Gaara of the Desert and the last ninja from Rock entered the arena. "Will you prove my existence?" Gaara said, bloodlust dripping from his voice. The proctor yelled, "Fight!" And the Rock Nin made hand signs in rapid succession. The Rock Nin fired off a bunch of rocks at Gaara, but sand always intercepted the bullets. Nothing managed to penetrate as the Rock Nin tried attack after attack. Gaara finally got bored and the sand formed a claw, grabbing the Rock Nin and slamming him into the ground with a cough of blood. The sand continued to crush the Rock Nin after the proctor called the match, forcing the Sand Jonin to step in and calm Gaara, who just kept muttering, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The Jonin and remaining genin gathered in front of the Hokage. "Before you take a month to prepare yourselves, you will all draw numbers to determine your matches in the public arena," the Hokage said with practiced authority. "Step forward and draw your numbers." The proctors called out numbers as they filled out a chart. Neji would fight Sakura. Sasuke would fight Gaara. Naruto would fight the Mist Nin. The Cloud Nin would fight the Rock Nin. Shino would fight Tamari. And Shikamaru would skip the first round. Naruto's house, that evening. "We all made it," Naruto exclaimed to Kushina and Jiraiya. The whole team is in the finals. Sasuke sat quietly on the couch, reading a book of poetry that he'd come to enjoy after picking it up some years ago. Who do you have to fight, Naruto? Jiraiya asked, genuinely curious. He hadn't been to a Chunin exam since his own decades ago, but he planned to see Naruto's Chunin exam. And that's why you master the basics, he thought. Some guy from Mist, Naruto said. Sasuke has to fight that crazy sand guy and Sakura is going to fight Neji. I'll work on a training program after I talk to Kakashi, Naruto, but I expect that you three will start training separately, Jiraiya explained. You might have to fight each other in later rounds, so it makes sense to give you all the best chance of success. Kakashi already spoke to me, Jiraiya. He expects that you'll train Naruto, and since Kurenai has a student in the finals and he doesn't want to call in any other favors, I'm going to train Sakura, while he trains Sasuke, Kushina explained. They were all surprised by the knock at the door. Everyone except the Hokage that they knew usually used the window. Naruto opened the door to find Hinata, looking petrified. Hello, Naruto, she stammered. Naruto looked outside, down the hall both ways, while Hinata stood stunned at Naruto's abrupt response. Hi, Hinata. You'd better come in before the hall monster get you, he teased. Hinata didn't know how to respond. Kushina pushed Naruto out of the way and said to the terrified girl, why don't you come in and have some tea? It'll calm your nerves and we can chat like civilized people, with a warm, welcoming smile. Hinata entered slowly, sitting in a chair whispering, thank you, Uzumaki-san. She looked at Jiraiya, who stared at her, and Sasuke, who ignored her. Damn, boy, you got girls knocking down the door to get to you. Jiraiya exclaimed as Naruto and Jiraiya started another boisterous argument over the propriety of commenting on Naruto's non-existent love life. Naruto led the Sannin to the couch where they would bother Sasuke instead of Hinata. Damn, she's cute. And not already hung up on Sasuke, Naruto thought while he argued. But she's the heir to a major clan, so maybe it isn't the best idea to get tangled up with her. Hinata sipped her tea while Jiraiya and Naruto made noise in the background. Kushina gave her a reassuring look and said, now then. What can I do for you, Hyuga-sama? Please, call me Hinata, Hinata started. I know that I'm not in the finals, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind training me. You are reputed to have the most stamina of any kunoichi in history and I am weak in that area. Additionally, I thought that I might include Sakura because she is going to fight my cousin and I would dearly like to see him lose. This is perfect. It couldn't have worked out better if someone was planning it. Kushina thought. I think that we can arrange that, Hinata. But will your family have any problems with it? My father is grooming my sister to take over the clan and my team won't be on any missions, so I doubt he would have noticed, but I asked him before I came here anyway and he told me that it wouldn't bother him, Hinata explained. All Hyuga women have giant breasts. Jiraiya screamed, holding his hands in front of his chest. Hinata blushed, but pretended not to hear it. She's right over there and we're only 13, you obnoxious, perverted, pedophile. Naruto screamed back, I'm saying for you not for me. And I'm just a pervert. I'm not a pedophile. Jiraiya defended, before noticing Kushina, Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata all staring at him. He stopped screaming and calmly said, right. I'll go find a hotel then, fleeing out the window at top speed, fearing for his life. Chapter 8. There's an owner's manual for the Sharingan. Kakashi asked Sasuke as the two entered the Uchiha family temple, displaying an uncharacteristic level of surprise. Sasuke brought Kakashi into the secret room under the temple to get Kakashi to teach him to unlock more aspects of his own Sharingan, not realizing that Kakashi had never seen it. All Uchiha know about the stone under the temple, Sasuke explained. It's amazing that you've managed to mature the Sharingan that you have without any instruction, Kakashi-sensei. Even with the instructions, not every member of the Uchiha clan awakened or fully developed their Sharingan. The two read the face of the large tablet before activating their Sharingan eyes. The tablet looked different under Kakashi's single, fully developed eye than it did to Sasuke's two, underdeveloped eyes. Training Ground 4. After you sign the contract, you'll be able to attempt summoning the toads, Jiraiya lectured. Yes, I understand, Pervy-sensei. Pull out the scroll already. Naruto exclaimed. Jiraiya pulled out the scroll and Naruto signed it. Before Jiraiya even rolled up the scroll, Naruto ran through the summoning seals and pumped as much chakra as his highly overdeveloped chakra network could produce into the very exact seal for summoning. Gamabunta appeared under the startled blonde. I knew all of the practice would pay off. Jiraiya noted. The enormous toad looked around before grumbling, what the hell, Jiraiya? I don't see a battle. And why are you down there? Jiraiya chuckled, I'm not the one who summoned you, as he pointed to the blonde standing atop the giant frog. Who are you? The toad rumbled. Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto introduced. What's your name, big guy? I am Gamabunta, and if you want to summon the Toad clan, then you have to prove yourself worthy, the toad boomed. How does that work? Naruto asked. Hang on, Gamabunta muttered as he started jumping around. Uzumaki apartment. What do you mean, I have to take off my clothes? Sakura exclaimed. You're fighting a Hyuga. We just so happen to have one of our own. You are going to learn where each and every one of your tenketsu are located. You are going to learn it because you won't be able to stop Neji from closing them. You are going to learn it because you are not going to lose in the first 30 seconds of the match. Now shut up and strip so Hinata can put the henna paint on you, Kushina admonished. Hinata stood in Kushina's bedroom with her Byakugan active and a needle with henna paint in her hand. It wasn't as if Hinata couldn't see through all of Sakura's clothes anyway. Uchiha Temple, underground. We have more training to do, Kakashi said. We should leave. But what if there's more? Sasuke asked. We won't learn it by staring at the stone, Kakashi replied. Right, Sasuke stated, not looking away. Kakashi grabbed the boy by the collar and dragged him out into the night sky. They'd been staring at the stone tablet all day. Training Ground 4. You've read about chakra natures, so I won't bore you by repeating it. Right now though, you're going to train all 5. I don't expect that you'll master all of them, but with shadow clones to cheat, you'll get the most out of your time, Jiraiya started. Why can't you just teach me some jutsus? Naruto whined. Because you want to be able to do any jutsu, not just one jutsu. Your control is great right now, but you need to learn to change your chakra nature, Jiraiya explained. So I'll just make 100 clones and then we'll all work on the exercises, Naruto grumbled. No. You'll make 25 clones and then you will do taijutsu training and meditation with me, dispelling and creating one group every 10 minutes. A mass of clones will eventually have minor differences and through trial and error, you'll find ways to do better at each exercise, individually. Each clone you'll be using will be trying a slightly different, but related exercise so that anything that one clone in each group learns can apply to any of the other clones in the group. This will make your training much more efficient so that you will learn how to change chakra natures much more quickly than the months or years that it might normally take, Jiraiya lectured. I think I get it. Start showing me the exercises, Naruto said as he created 25 shadow clones. Private Training Ground 3. You've got the speed down and, thanks to Lee and your training with Naruto, you've already figured out how to unlock 2 of the gates, but you'll have to rest up before you can do that again. Since we wasted yesterday reading the tablet in the Uchiha Shrine, we'll have to make up for that today by moving extremely fast. Keep your Sharingan active for as long as you can and let me know if I move too fast for you to keep up, Kakashi lectured as he started to fight Sasuke. Uzumaki apartment. This henna stuff doesn't come off, Kushina-san, Sakura whined. That's the point. It'll last for a month and we only had to apply it once. Start where we left off. Try to open your tenketsu after Hinata shuts it, Kushina lectured, reading a magazine advertisement for a hot spring. Once you can do that, you'll be ready for the next phase of your training. Beating Neji will be meaningless if you can't at least put up a good fight to whoever is after him. Training Ground 4. I've mastered the wind nature exercises, Pervy-sensei, Naruto crowed. Perfect. Now try using wind chakra in the techniques that you already know with it, Jiraiya muttered while looking through binoculars. Can't you stop looking at the springs for 5 minutes to teach me something? Naruto exclaimed. I am teaching you something. You just aren't learning it. Now do what I say until you've mastered all 5 elements. Jiraiya shot back. Private Training Ground 3. Faster, Sasuke. Kakashi yelled as a fist shot out. You have to be faster if you want to activate the 3rd Tomo. As he activated genjutsu distractions in rapid succession. Gah, you're trying to kill me. Sasuke screamed. Maybe not. But Gaara most certainly will. Don't quit. Kakashi screamed. Uzumaki apartment. So you can open and close your tenketsu at will, without striking them? Kushina asked. Sakura swore, not yet. Don't we have other things to study though? Not until you can open and close your tenketsu without your hands, Kushina said flatly. Kushina-san, Hinata asked. How is this helping my stamina? Are you tired at the end of the day? Kushina asked. Yes, Hinata answered. Are your muscles sore at the end of the day? Kushina replied. Yes, Hinata answered again. It's only been a week. You can't really expect a significant increase in that short time period. Once Sakura starts learning medical ninjutsu in earnest, we should be able to up the training significantly. But we won't be able to start that until she learns to control her tenketsu, Kushina smiled. So hurry up, Sakura. She yelled. And then Kushina went back to reading another magazine. Training Ground 4. When I use Wind Chakra with Shadow Clones, I can't make any clones. When I use Wind Chakra with Body Flicker, I just get a gust of wind with me when I move and I can keep going for much longer than normal. What use is that? Naruto asked. Have you tried Body Flicker on just one part of your body at a time instead of your whole body at once? Jiraiya asked. Wait, you can do that? Naruto responded. Yes. Now try it with Neutral Chakra, then with Wind Chakra, Jiraiya whispered through a hangover. And let me know when you can do anything with any other nature, he said as he nodded off in a lounge chair. Private Training Ground 3. Kakashi pulled up his headband to reveal his own 3-tomo Sharingan. You have to be faster, Sasuke, or I will definitely kill you, he intoned with deadly intent. Dodging or opening any gates won't save you. You have to perceive faster. How the hell am I supposed to do that? Sasuke thought as Kakashi started moving ever faster. Kakashi fought harder and faster, keeping his demeanor cold and cruel until Sasuke couldn't keep up. He threw kunai closer and closer to Sasuke, waiting for Sasuke's eyes to morph into the 3-tomo Sharingan that indicated it had reached full maturity. I still have 3 days to get his Sharingan to mature. I don't need to start teaching him the basis of Chidori until then, Kakashi thought as one of his kunai left a hair-thin streak of blood across Sasuke's arm. Leaf Hospital. You are going to learn 2 basic healing techniques. The first is how to repair minor damage. The second is how to reinforce tissues and project your chakra into a blow. Hinata is going to come with me and we'll be back when I have to carry her, Kushina explained. Are you dumping me off at the hospital to train Hinata? Sakura asked. No, I'm leaving you with experienced medics to teach you the principles involved in the techniques that you are going to need by the time I get done with Hinata, Kushina explained. You've already studied basic anatomy. Now, you're going to get a 4-day crash course and a few rounds in practical application. We'll see where you're at afterward, Kushina lectured. Hurry up or you'll be late. I had to call in some very old favors to get this for you. Sakura started following around the medic nin, asking questions about the 2 topics Kushina had mentioned, much to the annoyance of the medic nin. Ichiraku Ramen. I'm doing much better with Earth Chakra, but I'm still lagging with fire, lighting, and water. I don't get it. The harder I try, the worse those elements get, Naruto complained over lunch. Those elements aren't about pure effort, Naruto. Only Earth is about sheer stubbornness. You know that. Focus on what those elements are at their cores and you should make some more progress, Jiraiya said between slurps of ramen. Naruto stopped and slapped his forehead. Of course. I got wind quickly and have been using it with taijutsu already and Earth is coming along. So I've been using the ideas from molding Earth and Chakra with the other elements, but the ideas are incompatible with the nature of the Chakra. Why didn't you tell me that, Pervy-sensei? Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Yeah, why didn't I tell you that just now, he said flatly. I figured out how to use a partial body flicker with Wind Chakra to make my blows have a cutting quality though. That was pretty awesome, right? Jiraiya looked at his tattered shirt. It's a great combat technique, Naruto. But your meditation is still terrible. We're going to start doing a stillness exercise tomorrow that will help you a lot in the future. But meditation is boring, Naruto whined. You'll thank me someday, Jiraiya muttered as he ignored the whining blonde. Private Training Ground 3. You almost killed me, Sasuke screamed. Your Sharingan is now fully matured. It never would have happened without the life or death stress, Kakashi defended. Now we can work on your chakra nature. It should be a matter of days for you to master lightning chakra enough to perform the one unique jutsu that I've created. Wait, what? You're going to teach me your unique jutsu? What is it? Sasuke said, more interested. It's an assassination technique. It is purely offensive in nature and it's not something that you should use lightly, but Gaara might not give you a choice and I'm not going to send you to die at his hands in the arena, Kakashi explained. So all of this was just training. You weren't trying to kill me? Sasuke asked. I haven't given you a chance to think about it, but I'm a Jonin listed in bingo books and you're a genin. If I wanted to kill you, do you really think that it would have taken this long? Hurry up and finish your lunch so that we can get back to training, Kakashi said, already finished with his food. Uzumaki apartment. How am I supposed to heal a torn muscle? I barely got the theory from that guy at the hospital. Sakura complained loudly. You had 4 days, you already knew more than half of it, and you've been bragging about your perfect chakra control since we met. Stop being melodramatic and heal Hinata's arm, Kushina browbeat the pink-haired girl. I'm not even sure how. Sakura went on. Figure it out soon or you're going to have to spar with me next, Kushina threatened with a feral grin. And I make Sasuke and Naruto look like quitters when it comes to stamina. Sakura screamed with nervous laughter as Hinata quietly waited for the would-be Chunin to figure out a healing technique based on theory and perfect chakra control that Hinata knew didn't actually exist yet. Hinata absently thought, poor Sakura. Kushina is really pushing her. But if she can do this, then Neji won't be able to win. Training Ground 4. I can't quite use lightning as well as wind or earth, but I'm close. Water is still a problem and fire is barely any better. We've still got a week left. Shouldn't I keep training with the elements, Pervy-sensei? It's time to start incorporating the nature transformations into the jutsu that you already know. Plus, you're going to practice the practical application of seals. I know Kushina has given you scrolls, so we're going to focus primarily on putting what you know to use for the next 6 days, Jiraiya explained. Why not 7 days? Naruto asked. You don't want to be totally bushed on the day of the arena, so you'll take the last day to rest. We're going to the hot springs just outside of town. We're meeting Sasuke and Kakashi as well as Kushina, Hinata, and Sakura, Jiraiya smiled. You're not implying that you're going to peep on my mother and 2 of my peers, are you, Pervy-sensei? I'm offended, Naruto. There are plenty of other women for me to peep on, Jiraiya smiled. And some of them pay for the privilege, Jiraiya imagined some of his favorite jobs. Private Training Ground 3. Sasuke breathed heavily. He'd just put a hole in a boulder the length of his arm with his Chidori. It was the second of the day and he was nearly exhausted. That's it. You can only perform this jutsu twice in a day. Any more and you'll burn out your chakra and your stamina, which would result in your death. Kakashi's arms were folded as he watched. You have deeper chakra reserves than most ninja your age and you've got a fully mature Sharingan. But not a Mangekyo Sharingan, Sasuke interrupted. What would you rather have, friends or the Mangekyo Sharingan? Kakashi asked redundantly. Can't I have both? Sasuke asked. There is no way that I know of to have both, Sasuke. It's one or the other. Believe me when I tell you that I would trade almost anything to get my friends back. If I had a choice, I would choose friends, Kakashi said forlorn. Uzumaki apartment. You can knit some of your tissues back together, Sakura, but you can't enhance them with your chakra, Kushina evaluated. It's a great battlefield tactic, but I was hoping that you'd master the latter rather than the former. It's not like I can heal everything, Kushina-san, just minor tears. I don't know how I'm going to beat Neji, Sakura whined. Sakura, you'll be sparring against Hinata for the next 2 days. But you will only defend, never attack. If you don't see the benefit of your training, then I'll happily track down any instructor of your choosing to teach you after the exams, Kushina explained. Hinata, Sakura has been training with Naruto and Sasuke to get her endurance up. The both of you will keep fighting until I get tired. Until I get tired. The two asked in stereo. No. Until I get tired of fighting. I'll be watching from this comfortable lounge chair. Kushina smiled and showed off the lounge chair she'd stolen from Jiraiya. Hinata and Sakura mentally screamed in horror. Screaming out loud only resulted in Kushina's demented laughter haunting them throughout an exercise. Training Ground 4. Holy crap. Lightning chakra is the best body flicker augmentation ever. Naruto screamed. If we had more time, I'd start teaching you some more advanced chakra shaping exercises, but we'll save that for later. Why aren't you using any earth chakra though? You're much better at it than lightning. Earth body flicker is lame. I can barely move. It's not very good for my style, and a lightning technique of any kind will punch right through it. Since I don't know any real earth jutsu, I'll just use wind and lightning, Naruto explained. If we had more time, I'd teach you some earth techniques, but we have to start making our way to the hot springs. Remember not to give away what we've been training until you fight at the exams, Jiraiya lectured. Try not to think about it too much. Try to relax tomorrow. Too bad you can't manage to sit still, he muttered.